Hello, everybody. If it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer, and that must mean it's time for another episode of Warhammer Weekly. Joining me, as always, my co-host Tom, my own little fanatic. How you doing, Tom?
Hello, friends.
Also joining us, perhaps the loon boss of loon bosses, the man who has represented the Gabos here in the U.S. longer than anybody else. He's been the Spider-Man doing things only a Spider-Man can. It's Paul. How you doing, buddy?
Wonderful.
It's good to see you on. I love how you have the proof of your. Let's lock on Paul here for a moment. There we go. We can also look at Paul's awesome army behind him.
He's representing.
Yeah, he's repping hard. I love it.
Indeed.
Take your chances where you can.
Yeah.
Is that in your kitchen?
Yeah, that's in my kitchen.
Wait, now more specifically, is that sitting on your oven?
Yeah, it is.
Wow. All right.
It's turned off. It's okay.
ready to roast some spiders.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not sure I could actually, even knowing it was off, even double checking every burner, as I'm sure you did. I'm not sure I could put my army on the oven. Like it just feels like there's you don't know if you're in some kind of Final Destination situation. I mean, who knows?
I actually physically put my hand on each burner to make sure I didn't burn myself.
Right, because
the spiders on there.
Yeah, because the skin of your hand is like that's fine.
That's important. Yeah.
Yeah.
Details.
All right. Well, so we're going to continue our Gloomspite Gitz discussion tonight. There's so much more Gitz to get into. But first off, there's some news. And even though there's not a lot of GW news, that is to say, like release type stuff, boy, oh boy, is there a lot of actual news.
Actually, let's do Rumor Engine first. And then before we go into like weird result news, because we have tons of results.
I do
want to talk about product news. Because we do have some product news that I want to talk about.
Oh, okay. That's fine. I know where you're going with this. I know where you're going with this. That's fine. All right. So let me bring
Rumor
up.
Engine.
I'm bringing it up. Yes, your face. It's like 52 windows I have open for FAQs and results lists and everything else. All right, here we go. I'll share.
You know what I like to call this image?
Some string.
Where there's a whip.
Oh boy.
There's a way.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Yes, I too like Rankin and Bass. All right, so yeah, all right. Well, let's have the guess. What is this? Paul gets to guess first. Paul, what's your guess?
Well, there's an obvious answer.
I'm ready.
I mean, it looks like it's going to be Slanesh. To me.
Okay. So you're thinking like Hellstrider or Whippish? Like something along the like Leather Daddy? Leather Daddy.
Oh yeah,
whips?
if we're going with Vince's Leather Daddy prediction, this is absolutely fitting in with that for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be
you're not wrong.
Battle, maybe.
Sure. But it's got the tight
like the execute the whip pain ones, that one?
Yep. Exactly.
The executrix or whatever.
Yeah. It's
Tom,
possible it could be that.
What's your guess?
I mean, yeah, like I'm gonna go with the fact that this is not a whip.
Okay. What is it?
I think it's some type of leash or harness.
Okay. It's clearly leather, right? Like the binding of it is clearly leather.
Yeah.
We all agree on that.
I'm actually going to go with I think it's Slaves to Darkness.
Okay. And you're saying like a Dark Oath / slave / Everchosen / whatever the heck that actually ends up looking like.
Yep. I'm gonna go with that. Even though like the wrappings remind me of the wrappings on the feet of Skaven.
Sure. That's because they have a wrapping file in Zcat or whatever that they can apply to any model.
Yeah. But I'm gonna say I think it's Dark Oath. I think it's like our slaves renewal.
Okay. And then the other potential guess that people throw around is obviously Skaven, right? Because Skaven also has whips and stuff like that in it. Right. I think we've now covered all our bases.
Well, it could be flagellants. It could
no,
be
it
devoted
It's not.
Sigmar.
No, it's not.
It quite possibly could.
Yeah, it's not that. It's not. I know that's a fun thought, but nope, it's not.
So it's not
that.
it's not a cat of nine tails. This is not our devoted Sigmar cat of nine tails.
Well, there's only 3 tails. And yes,
Well, a cat of 3 tails, a Dracoline of 3 tails,
3 tails.
Yeah, no, it is
a
not.
kitty cater of 3 tails.
Kitty cater, yeah.
Actually,
I'm ready.
Isn't there a purificator chamber that hasn't been opened yet for Stormcast?
Yeah,
There's a couple.
This could be like
chambers.
the self-flagellating one. Yeah.
Yep, that's quite possible.
True.
Plus any other chamber they want to make up on the spot.
So
I
would love to see so are they like flagellating their Sigmarite bodies with how's that work?
No, the purifier chamber is just a priest chamber, and they're not going to have flagellants. Stormcast don't flagellate themselves. Doesn't work. You can't be in.
That's what I'm wondering. Like Kong.
You can't be in space plate. And yeah, Fang.
What if they're like the inverted like Iron Maidens, and so they have like spikes inward into their like Stormcast bodies, and then like the more they get hit, the more they're pierced and penetrated, and got real dark real quick, and then that motivates them to be like berserkers.
Yeah. Okay. It's not that. It's not any of that. That is going to be my strong supposition. Yeah, I mean, the wrapping looks pretty simple, but the leather looks really tight, right? Like, that's very tightly wrapped leather, type of that overlay.
Keeping it tight. Yep.
It is keeping it tight. I'm going to say it's none of that stuff, and it's not AOS. I do think it's a 40K thing. I honestly don't know what. I don't think it's a Sisters of Battle Whip, though. I think you're right that it's not a whip. I think it is some kind of, like, connective harness type of thing. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, like it reminds you of like a chariot-esque type of thing, or something along those lines. I don't think it's an actual chariot, but like I don't know, maybe it's like a 3-point harness to like some type of mount that's dragging something. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's like it doesn't feel like a Slanesh whip. It doesn't. It's that it wouldn't have a Slanesh whip would not have this gross wrapping on it like this. What is this?
Right.
Now, if it was like the Leather Daddy Dark Oath thing, sure.
That's why I went Dark Oath. That's why I went with Dark Oath. Because
if it's AOS, that's what it is. I agree with that. Like that's the only one that makes sense to me. It's far too the leather is too clean for Skaven, and the whip is far too dirty. The wrapping is far too dirty for Slanesh. Hence, there's only one Chaos faction in the middle of those two, Dark Oath. That's my math. Yep. If you subtract gross Skaven from clean. Elegant Slanesh, you get Dark Oath.
What about like Mordheim?
What about it? It's not happening anytime soon, I suspect.
You think this is Mordheim? This is from the Mordheim base set?
No,
you mean
I don't think
Shadespire from the Shadespire base set.
No. Mordheim. Like that's what I'm saying. Like the renewal, the box, Mordheim box that's coming.
Oh, I completely agree. I just don't think it's going to be Mordheim. I think it's going to be Shadespire.
We remind you, we did get a true Necromunda box. Anyways, yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
It could be anything. Yeah. What's in the box? All right. Well, there you go. So there's some suspicion.
So other release news, interesting news. So it was brought to the attention in a thing of like, hey, where'd Gitmob go? And where'd the Greenskins factions go? And then GW responded on their page, oh, those have been discontinued. So if you go to the page, like there is no Gitmob tab at all anymore. There is a Greenskin tab, and the only 2 products left on it are tragically the
old plastic orc boys, right?
Right, the plastic orc boys and the orcs and the chariot. But like the War Boss and the Boar Boys and the Shaman, all of those like are gone, sold out online, no longer available. So like they're gone. So despite the fact that we have a getting started box for this army, it's gone.
Sure.
The irony of this being, by the way, this weekend is the last opportunity to buy the made-to-order Greenskin army.
Sure.
So they just discontinued it, and we're like, by the way, here's some made-to-order stuff. Peace out.
Look, we gave you your goblin. Shut up. Here you go. This is what
right. That's exactly it. And they're like, "Get mob out."
I will happily trade new Spider Fang rules and new Moon Clan for old Git Mob any.
Hey, I'm not critiquing it. It's just interesting to me that we have lost that faction. It's probably one of our first true removals.
You're saying it'll post the early
post AOS, yeah. And it'll be interesting to see if we get what happens in the next GHB. Do they get purged from the points? Because right now they're allies for Gloomspite. Git Mob is, for example. So you can take the war machines in Gloomspite.
Mm-hmm.
But how long is that going to last? That's the question. Will we lose it next? And then what will happen for that GHB, for the next GHB? Do those become discontinued, or how's that work? Because they're not compendium scrolls. They were actual AOS scrolls that just didn't get updated points. And up until this point, if you have an AOS scroll that didn't get updated points, technically it's legal, according to the FAQ. So
yeah, but I think this is kind of the cycle we're in, though. Every year, we're going to find out what's still good, and every year we're going to lose stuff, and then it's going to change. I mean, that's basically what they seem to be going to.
I think you're probably right. And when I posted this on Twitter, I said, oh Swift Hawk, how long are you gonna last? It's the question, because as much as people joke about it, Swift Hawk, their future looks bleak because their two of their 3 battle line units are no longer available because they were in the Spire of Dawn box and you can't buy them any other way.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
And their main hero isn't available any longer. And their one dual kit for their other battle line is a dual kit with a Wanderer's kit. So,
my argument is they don't need to do anything to get rid of this faction. It's already been done.
Hey,
it happened organically.
I have a full 2,000 point army.
I have a full 3,000 points of Swift Hawk. And by the way, Swift Hawks went 4-1 this weekend, I believe.
You mean 4-2? But
4-2. Yeah.
There was, at any rate, the point is that Paul. I'm sorry, we need to back up, and we're not just going to blow through this. Your little one-upsmanship there, Tom. And we're not just going to let that fly by. Paul, your Swift Hawks. I'm sorry, are they outside of a box?
Yes, they are 2,000 points, fully assembled, primed, and 3 colors.
There you go,
Tom.
Great, awesome. How's your Swift Hawk doing? Are those in a box or outside of a box? Just check.
They are outside of a box.
Not
all of them.
Are they
a lot of them? Many of them are assembled. 50 models are assembled.
Are they painted?
Some of them are painted.
What percentage, Tom?
Not a lot. 10 Spire Guard are painted.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, so Paul has a bigger army than you. Yeah.
And I also have a converted Murworm with
nice.
Yeah, but you can't run him. But you can't run him, though.
Oh,
he's just going to be a high elf dragon. It's fine. He'll be an ally.
Absolutely. And also, yes, he can. Open plays a thing. You shut your face. As he could in narrative, too, by the by. You can absolutely tell a story about how the Swift Hawk have a big, giant worm like that. Anyway, the Postmen, who knows? That's... As to what's their future, I mean, what got shaved off here is effectively, in my mind, and this isn't, I don't mean this insulting to anybody. If you really love these things, that's fine.
All the generic goblins and orcs.
But the generic things, yes.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Releases, they clearly want AOS armies to have, a silhouette, a flavor, an interest, a place in the world, a unique character and tone and everything, right?
Yep.
And when you look at the Gitz and the things like that, that stuck. And, it's you can't read the tea leaves here because you certainly could have guessed that some elements of Beasts wouldn't have made the transition, right? And yet when the Beasts of Chaos came out, it was everything just came along with it.
No, but they do have a silhouette though. And what I mean by that is they're not generic fantasy.
I'm saying if you went back, here's how I know you didn't think it was going to happen, okay? Because we
didn't have a book for 10 years.
For free. You won for free. For free. Free. You won the Monsters of Chaos box set that came with Spawn and Dragon Ogres and everything that would have been awesome for that army. And you were like, this is never going to be anything. I'm selling it. People will buy this thing. And you sold it. So that was what
I had to fund my Caradron Overlord's army. Yeah.
Well, and that investment paid off. So the point is
spades.
Exactly. But the point is that like none of us thought that was going to suddenly become a new thing with new rules and have new focus, and yet it did. So my point is that who knows? Could some of the generic elf stuff get shaved off? Yeah, sure. That's the likely target, right? Like once you have new angel elves and shadow elves and you have like, it's just as likely, by the way, that like Swifthawk gets blown out into its own thing and gets a complete re-release. Like tell me that's not a flip of a coin world that we could live in, because it is a faction that could end up interesting enough to have a release.
I mean, what I would say is this: maybe if it gets combined with another of elf factions and they ditch some of the old out of print stuff, because they're not going to make new molds for all that stuff that's out of print.
No, they bring back Swifthawk in the same way they bring back anything else, right? Like it gets blown out. It has new kits, new versions of things. Like we just saw with the Gitz, they're willing to make new kits of some stuff, combine it with old, even when it's not the relatively oldest stuff. My point is that like I couldn't tell you which side that comes down on. Is it possible that all gets squatted or gets cut? Sure. Post all the elves happening. Is it possible that it just becomes its literal own force and we get blown out into having its own full thing? Yep, that also seems possible. I don't know which, and I couldn't tell you where the odds are.
Yeah, but the thing is that, especially with Swifthawk agents, they were in the starter set, and then they got their own re-release,
right,
in another starter set. Right? They're a good sculpts for sure. All of them are great. They're
definitely some beautiful sculpts. Yes,
they're in the lore, right? They're in Black Library.
I mean, yes, you are correct. They deliver the mail.
They deliver the mail. Hey, that's better than the Git Mob.
Oh, postman. Oh, postman.
That was a great movie. Come on. That was a great movie.
Welcome to Costner Talk, where we spend hours discussing the underrated hits of Kevin Costner.
I mean, Waterworld, come on.
Sure.
You got
he had gills.
Right there.
Drank pee. Yeah, I'm with you.
Now, all that said, like, I may or may not have, like, all the bits to convert a bird elf army. Like, that could happen. Between like the Dark Rider bird shields and phoenixes and all the stuff, all of the bird elf army stuff. But I don't know. Maybe Swifthawk becomes a combination with Phoenix Temple and they bring all the bird stuff together into one big happy bird kit. It's possible. Sure.
I mean, there was a story that was one of the stories of the city foundings, right? Had to do with the Phoenicium, had to do with the way the Phenai, sort of like swooped around and freed the city from Amber and stuff, which was a super cool story, by the way.
Right. But what I would say is that I see more gas or likelihood of us getting like a cities book, like a Phoenicium faction. That's basically like combined things of stuff we already have. Does that make sense? Like that seems more likely to me, given what they've done. I don't know. I mean, like, we don't know what they're going to do. Like, we've seen what they do with combining factions in Chaos, in Destruction, and in Death so far. We've had combined faction stuff for all of those. We've never received a combined faction for Order yet. It just hasn't happened.
Well,
and so, if they bring it into Order, it will be something related to civilizations. It'll be some named society, like cities and countries and...
Sure.
And so if you get model combination lines, that's the route they'll probably go and have a shared keyword among, like, so they could keep their own old, like, Ironweld arsenal, but then suddenly, like, it could be the, like, Cog Fort or whatever.
I mean, it's just Firestorm blown out big into a single book. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Paul, go ahead. What were you going to say?
Right.
Well, but the thing is, I think what's going to happen if they're going to do that, which I think is pretty likely, is they're going to do Phoenix Temple, they're going to do Swifthawk, and then they're going to do a new, like, Angel Elves that everybody's been talking about in the same book. They're going to do what they did with Gloomspite here, where they did a new release, a completely new set of kits, and they folded in two other,
I think you're insane.
New rules.
You're insane if you think we're going to get Angel Elves in the same book as the old Elves. It's just not happening. That it'll be like I don't see them. I don't see it happening. Like, I could see something like a combined elf book that is like current elves. So you could get Swifthawk, Phoenix, and like the arcane whatever they're called. Or maybe Order Draconis, and combine a lot of that stuff and then get an Angel Elf book separate. But I don't think that we'll get like a Quadrant Overlord rework of a faction combined with old models.
Time will tell. That's not what this show's about. But interesting supposition all. Who knows? It is all that.
Yeah.
Everyone said Paul was crazy when he said the spiders were going to be in the Goblin book, but look who was right.
Yep. It's true. No.
Stop.
No.
We're not rewriting history.
No.
Stop.
Go look at my Malign Portents prediction.
Stop.
I talked about Goblin Spider Fang being released in this.
I didn't say
rotation.
you. I said everybody. Keep going.
Okay.
Next news.
I was right. Okay. Sorry.
Paul's been a supporter much longer. Go ahead. Go.
Okay.
Keep going.
So we, for those that are interested, LVO has their champion list submission deadline this Sunday, February 3rd at midnight. They need to be, and then the list will be released to the public Monday the 4th. If you don't have it in on time, it's bad. You get like a yellow card or something. I don't know what any of this like soccer rules are, but
yes, there is. The point is, if you're watching this and you're an LVO participant in the Age of Sigmar tournament and have not yet submitted your list, please get on it. There are penalties for not having your list in on time. So your list needs to be submitted by February 3rd, midnight Eastern, and lists will be released to the public Monday the 4th. Yes, there are penalties to not having your list in on time, so please do it. Don't lose points for no reason. Don't make the TO's life hard. The TO of LVO AOS is a very, very nice man who goes absolutely to the mattresses to run this show. So try to be nice to your TO. That's what I'll say.
And he's in the chat. Say hi to Scott.
I didn't even know he was in the chat. I would say that about Scott to his face, behind his back, everywhere. I will talk nice about Scott behind his back.
How dare you, sir?
Yes.
This weekend was a big weekend for Age of Sigmar.
It was a huge weekend, the hugest.
Indeed, the hugest. We had CanCon, we had the AOS Masters in the UK, we had Waupaca. It's hot. It's all hot right now. So let's talk about.
There's also a nice little tournament in New York too. I want to talk about that Martin attended. So we'll talk about everything. Yep. Go ahead. We should start at the top.
There was a nice local tournament that happened in my city as well.
Nice.
So that happened. I didn't play in it, but I was there for part of it. And then I went home and was beat by my son. So, my 8-year-old. CanCon results. Biggest event in the world thus far, right?
Yep, biggest AOS event so far. Yes, was huge.
So
definitely the sweatiest.
Definitely the sweatiest.
Somewhere down there, yes.
Like 100 degrees in that. Yeah, like 100 degrees Fahrenheit or whatever is what they were dealing with all weekend. Yeah,
it was on the bottom of the world, and indeed, apparently, it turned the AOS world upside down as well.
That's right. I don't know how they play standing on the ceiling like that. It's so weird.
It is the weirdest.
You feel like they fall off.
The magnets, really good magnets.
Oh, yeah, good. That's good call. Good call.
So
I'm going to share something up here, Tom. Here we go.
Yep.
So first of all, it is the list. It is the list. Yes, that's correct. Mm-hmm. So we're gonna flip to this so we can continue our discussion. This is if you want to see this, by the way, this is on our good buddy Dan, AOS Shorts Dan. So here you go. It's the site. I just linked back. I'll link it again, as I'm sure this would have been one of our pick of the weeks anyways. So this is all the results. Some quick breakdowns, which I quite like. Top 20 was a real, like, you look at this spread. This is really nice in the top 20.
Yep.
4 Stormcast, which isn't surprising.
And kudos to Stormcast, by the way, though, because they haven't had a strong showing in the last like year of big GTs. Stormcast haven't been as strong.
They're always chomping around the top 10, top 20. So
they are certainly. But like the distribution of that, like if you look at the actual numbers, like I would have anticipated for a Grand Host of Nagash. I would not have anticipated or Legions of Nagash, which includes Grand Host of Nagash, Legion of Night, Legion of Blood,
which there was.
I mean, I guess there was 4 and 4 if you count that. Mm-hmm. So I guess those numbers make you feel a little bit better. But yeah, like the 4 Stormcast was surprised me at least. I'll say that.
Sure. No, this is a really nice spread. Like I liked seeing the fake army of the Chaos Dwarves up top. That's nice. Let's talk
about that Kharadron Overlord.
Oh, we're gonna come back to this. Hold on a second. I like this spread. Everybody was like, oh, blah blah blah. Daughters will win it. It's just gonna be daughters. It's just gonna nope. Nope. Like the daughters were 7th, by the way, in case people are curious. Yeah. I know this list is very small, but you can come here and see it. Lots of like a nice generic destruction. We got one of the new Gloomspite Gitz made it up here, a generic chaos. We had a Ghosty Boys in there, a Sylvaneth, Nurgle, Deepkin. I love it. This is like, you want to see what a pretty healthy meta looks like. This is a pretty healthy meta.
Yeah, you know what that looks like? That looks like a win for the design team.
Absolutely.
Ben Johnson and the rest of the beta testers and all of our all of that folk, kudos to you. Because you know what that says right there is that we have a healthy meta.
Right.
Yeah.
And Australia is always leading the pack. Let's face it, because like I don't know whether it's because they're so far away, they feel the gravitational pull of net lists less strongly. I'm not sure.
Yep.
But they're always forging their own path and redefining the meta like every time. So let's talk about KO. The actual winner, by the way, was Blades of Khorne. Okay.
How
right?
Yeah, Gore Pilgrims.
Yep.
How amazing is it that the final game on Top Table was Gore Pilgrims versus KO?
It was the most amazing game. It was a KO versus Khorne, both 5-0, 5 majors.
Yep.
It was the most like so I watched the whole game live. It happened at like 1 a.m. Eastern time. Right.
Yep.
And it was also a shout just real quick. I want to give an awesome shout out that AOS coach called it Kron. Okay. And so Kron is the name of the KO player, right? Who ended up in 11th place, sadly, because of, again, keep in mind, he was on table 1, game 6, but obviously when he lost, it was a the Blades Khorne guy got a major win, so it pushed him down. But still an incredibly amazing game, amazingly played. I think it came down to one moment. There was one moment where the game turned on, that Kron didn't make a move that sort of was being discussed in the live coverage.
Yeah.
And that was really, I think, where it turned. But that is it. Like, by that, what I mean is that it wasn't that the KO player got whooped. They were in it to win it. And, I think there was just basically one small mistake. But let me just say this, Matt, who is the Blades of Khorne player, played an absolutely incredible game. Okay. Watching him use his blood tithe and the pulls off of the slaughter priest to manipulate the KO units, move his own units into position. It was a freaking masterclass in how to play Khorne. It really was.
That's good. Yeah, I mean, what I would say is this: Nick Tordano is giving me a hard time in the chat because he's talking about me eating humble pie. But like,
all you have to do to win with KO is actually be a good player, I think, is what he's saying. Like, that's where you're coming up short, Tom.
No. Like, we talk like Vince.
Overlords. If anybody gets blamed here, it's probably going to be me.
There you go.
No, I mean, Vince. Like, we talked about this. Like, there is gas in the KO engine.
Yeah,
it's just not what people are anticipating.
Sure,
it's not the same. Now, what I'll say is this: I think the surprising thing was actually the magic and the allies. Most of us were looking, or at least I was looking at the dwarf allies, originally like Longbeards or Volkites as the key kind of like component, and he actually ran with 2 units of evocators.
Yep.
Which like, on one hand are surprising, but on the other hand make total sense because of everything that they're bringing. I mean, it was a great observation, great grab.
They are a hammery anvil that gave him some extra meat on the line that was also a wizard, and so could participate in the be a wizard scenarios
and spit out mortal wounds. All of the shortcomings of KO. Like, it is a wonderful grab on his part. Like, kudos to him. And it's 2 units instead of 1. Like, that was the problem I was having with like including like Volkites as that anvil with mortals and all that, was that it was 1 unit, so you had to string it out, where he would have 2 evocator units that he could spread out. So kudos to him. The other nice ingenious move was running a frigate with 14 thunderers in there. To be able to put pressure on the enemy, because he would airdrop it and then basically and then not have to do the charge. Like, that's always the catch, is like trying to get over their chaff or whatever with riggers. And the solution then was to forsake riggers completely and go with like the 42 shots at 3s and 4s. which is like
he had because he'd have it was 14 Thunderers in the engine.
Yeah,
the whatever that guy is,
the chemist. The chemist.
There you go. The chemist.
That could bunker buster, like make people flee. Did you hear about his other real but it's not just the power of KO that was there. Did you hear about some of the moves that he was running with the Thunderers? This is so ingenious.
Where he was using Thunderers how they're supposed to be. He would charge.
He would charge,
and when he activated, just retreat. Use their in-combat retreat instead of fighting. Yes, it's brilliant.
Yeah, and he would never get into combat except for what he would do is he would charge in with the Thunderers and only have the Thunderers in combat. And so he chooses first. He would choose first and run them around. And so pull and gain extra movement with the Thunderers and snake objectives from people because he would run around the back, get himself back out of combat and into a better position. It's a really genius, smart move. So he was a great player. I believe in turn, was it round 4? He beat the Australian Masters.
Yeah, Dave Kerr. Yeah,
Dave Kerr.
He beat the
running Gloomspite. Yeah, no, or was it Doom? It was Deepkin. Yeah, that's right. So I mean, it's he played a great game. So kudos to him.
So I'm seriously impressed though with running an underpowered unit in order to get that extra character in there. That's just a very smart move.
It's so brilliant.
I have not thought of. I mean, I ran an underpowered unit Waupaca this weekend, but that's just because I didn't want to have movement trays with my army. Because I was going pretty back to the finish.
Yeah.
So there you go. I'm going to pause here for a moment because somebody asked if I can turn your mic up, and the answer is yes. So I'm going to stop sharing.
Mine or Paul's?
Paul's, yeah.
Okay,
which I
can turn mine up.
No, you're fine. Right. Believe me, Tom, you're loud enough, so you'll be fine, Paul. I can handle Paul here.
All right, thank you, sir.
All right, tell me. Everybody has to tell me if that's better. So put in the comments.
You just got louder too.
I didn't change my own sound any. I only changed Paul. Okay. Paul, talk for a minute, and we'll have the audience say that that's better.
So yeah, Waupaca was amazing. I'm sure we're going to cover it in just a minute, but I couldn't stay up until 1 a.m. to watch this game because I was too busy having fun with my friends in Waupaca, drinking until 1 a.m. So
indeed,
I'm sure it was amazing. I'm sure it was fantastic, but.
So tell us about Waupaca since you were there, Paul.
All right. Well, it was absolutely incredible again. So in previous years, it had been totally Warhammer Fantasy. And then when Warhammer Fantasy became AOS, then it split into more of a con style event. And so the last 2 years, it leaned hard into that. And this year they went back to just a solid GT for AOS. And I think they did a really good job of bringing it back to where I think it's the most fun. I think they realize that that's what they're kind of going for. So it was super awesome. They had buffets that were included with your meal, so nobody had to leave the hotel, which was super important when it's negative 25 degrees wind chill outside. So it was fantastic to see old friends make new friends. It was just great. The number of people that had never been to a Waupaca event before that showed up was just kind of crazy. I definitely felt like the old man in the room, along with Thomas and John Wagner as well, being to all 10. Just sitting there going, you have no idea why Waupaca is amazing and why we've been coming here for this long. Just because it was such an incredible event and it was great. The energy was back, the social was everything. It was fantastic. It was a great experience for sure.
There seems to be some really interesting traditions as well. I saw a photo of people holding a pint. What's up with that?
2 people holding a pint.
Okay, indeed.
So there was a team final, and so there was a team event during the whole weekend, and at the end, there wasn't a tie, but the top 2 teams were required to hold a pint. So Bryce from the guys from Milwaukee was chosen to hold one of them, and then Clint from the Detroit Warhammer was chosen to hold the other one. It's such a large lead. Bryce had to hold his pint for 36 seconds before Clint had to hold out his pint to begin with.
Wow.
So that was how they determined who was actually going to win the team championship, or who could have the pint longer, which was absolutely amazing. And that was part of the awesomeness because Nickel unfortunately had already left because there was a huge snowstorm, as there always is. So he FaceTimed back in, and then Brad and Andrea unfortunately weren't able to be there due to real life issues, and they FaceTimed in. So It was an awesome ending to the weekend for sure.
Well, not only were they not there, but Brad was kind of there in spirit. I saw this get shared, and I couldn't
amazing.
I couldn't not share this on the show. So this sat at table 1 for the entire weekend.
Yes, now I will say a huge shout out to Mike Butcher, who put that together. It's absolutely amazing.
I thought did Mike put it together or did I thought Hobby Bear put it together?
Well, he came up with the idea, but my understanding is that Mike was the one who actually made it work together.
Gotcha. So it was a joint effort. Okay.
It was definitely a joint effort. Hobby Bear had made the Relian Memorial Army to bring to Waupaca. And ironically, it did not have a Nagash, nor was it super competitive. So I'm not sure if it's actually the Relian Memorial Army, but he tried, Yeah, this was pretty amazing to bust out game 1 of the event for sure.
I love it. I saw that and it just I giggled for like 5 minutes.
It was amazing. Unfortunately, it was on table 4 to begin with, but that was rectified super early. Came on table 1 before the first game started. So
nice,
yeah,
nice. I saw Chuck, our buddy Chuck, friend of the show, and it started on table 1. So he peaked real early.
Yeah, he was on table 1 at Adepticon and table 1 at
Waupaca.
What more can you ask for?
It's amazing.
I can ask him to stop running Kraith, but he won't do it. He refuses. So it's like, I get it. You don't want to run Hagnar, but do you have to run the only bad one, Chuck? Jeez, Pete's man.
Do you want me to rub it in for you, Vince?
Sure.
He has a win ratio. He has like a 36-22 win ratio with Kraith.
Yep,
that's pretty good.
Like it's not bad.
Sure.
Yeah, you could pay $20 and get reroll dice. You know what Chuck used his reroll dice on?
Rerolling Kraith rolls.
Yes, exactly. He saved them for just rerolling Kraith. It was great.
The worst use of that in the history of uses of a reroll die. That's fantastic.
Let's say he's also the only person with the balls to put on Taylor Swift in the bar after the night is done on the jukebox.
Good man.
That's pretty amazing. I love you, Chuck. So Waupaca, it sounds like a lot of fun. What were the numbers? How many did you all have?
Oh, sure.
I think it was 60. Nice. Which was pretty good for the first time of doing a full AOS again after doing a con for a couple of years. So it definitely is going to be happening again next year. So I would highly, highly recommend going. It was just fantastic. It was a relaxing weekend. It was a great event of 5 games. Like, everybody is there to play in the right spirit. Like, Jake got best general and he played for it, but everybody knows Jake. He's not a jerk player, right? And that's very representative of the event in general. Everybody's just there to have some good fun, to be there for the atmosphere. And, when it's -25 outside, you want to spend some time inside, drinking a lot of beer and hanging out with a lot of friends. And that's exactly what this event is actually about. So it was fantastic.
That's fantastic. That's awesome.
And so we should just shout out here real quick. Mike Butcher got the best single model. Domus got best army. Broeska got best sports. Let's see. As you mentioned, Jake got best general, and Nickel got best overall. Is that right?
That's right. And Donnie got best silver pumpkin, which is second place, the bridesmaid award, as it were.
Gotcha.
So, he's from the Detroit Warhammer Club as well.
Yeah.
So GLWL1 on Twitter.
I think we played Donnie in the last round of Havoc this year.
Yeah. They actually had a best objective contest as well, which he won. He made some really sweet objectives out of the Shadespire triangles that you get. Terrain. So that was pretty awesome as well. So yeah, it was a fantastic time. It was great.
Very nice.
And by the way, Andrew Yells got 10th place with an Ard Fist.
He did.
It's amazing.
And I heard there was also one other quick fun news we want to shout out. Is this you mentioned this right before we went live, and I want to make sure. So this is, am I understanding accurately? The person who got the wooden spoon,
yes,
just like last place, right?
Yep.
Also was half of the first engagement at Waupaca. Like, somebody actually proposed to their significant other at Waupaca, and they accepted, I assume.
Yes.
Okay.
And it was like super crazy. It was like, somebody's getting engaged. Like, who comes to a Warhammer tournament to get engaged? And of course, me being the misogynistic person was like, I assume she's just here to like have a good time. No, she was playing the whole weekend. So she had a Sylvaneth list with like a Four Seasons theme. So like
Nice.
it was awesome. It was a great time. And if I might, there's one more shout out I love to do. So this year was the last year that the Bear is going to be involved with Waupaca. And so for those of you who don't know, the Bear is the one who made all the terrain, made Waupaca what it is. Starting 10 years ago, he's the one who made fully integrated boards with working water wheels and beautiful caves and dwarven halls that were 2 feet tall. Like, he just put an amazing amount of work into making Waupaca into a fantastic event for all of Warhammer Fantasy, and worked his butt off for all of the prizes and everything that's going on. So if you ever saw some of those amazing prizes, that was all the Bear. So this year he decided he was going to step away. They're just like, well, we're not putting enough time into it to justify it. So huge thank you to Bear and his wife Crystal, who has come to all the Waupacas and helped run everything. So that was an awesome to be there for his last event as well. So that was great.
Nice. Awesome. Very good. I dig it. I assume it will continue on and only grow and be in strong hands, but that sounds like a heck of a legacy to leave behind. So there you go.
Oh, exactly. The Raj is going to continue going forward, and he's been the one who's basically been organizing it from the beginning. So it's not turning hands, as it were. Just a couple different people moving it forward.
Yep. If you look for, by the way, somebody was asked like the spelling, it is up above, but also if you just look on Twitter under, well, first of all, I'll link Paul's Twitter down in the description because he has like full pictures and everything of the event like crazy. But if you also just look under like hashtag PACA19, you'll see it. So there you go.
Can I just point out, I was slightly disappointed that I made my whole army pumpkin themed in hopes of getting somewhere near the silver pumpkin, and I failed so terribly miserably. I think I got second from the bottom.
Nice. That's a win.
Whoops. Other way around. Nice. All
Fantastic.
right. So you want to talk about Masters now, Tom?
Yeah. So Beast. Yeah, where do you start with this? Other than like, for those that don't know, it was a crazy, like, the scenario itself was like all in Akshi with like certain spells for certain games. Like, so all of it was like predetermined. And so it spawned a bunch of very abnormal lists. So if you go and look, like Ben Sava brought this crazy weird night haunt list. Gary Percival went with 60 sequiturs. That happened. And Dan, Warhammer TV Dan, came in hot with the Beast of Chaos for the victory. Kudos to you, Dan. Kudos to you.
I would just point out, and as this was as widely reported on Twitter, when he initially shared his list weeks before the Masters, the list was titled Masters 2019 Winning List.
Winning list. Yes. Yes.
One of my favorite pictures from the Twitter was Russ Veal. And there's a picture of him looking befuddled, going, what exactly do Beasts do again? Like, he literally has no idea how to play the army.
That's amazing. That is a Babe Ruth style point toward the outfield call that I am so glad worked out.
And it was a great list. Like, it was Zinchi and it was a lot of Enlightened, which are really strong right now. And it was a shit kicker list. So kudos to you, Dan. Clearly you played an excellent weekend.
Well, he still had 30 actual Zangor too on foot, right?
Which is, yeah.
Like which I submit, despite the change, still is a fantastic unit. Like, it's still a 60 wound unit that can deal damage and is, relative as tough as it needs to be.
And that army shits Ren. And so with all of those those big like multi-damage attacks at like neg 6 rend or whatever between like the stone and the debuff, and like it's silly. It was silly, and yeah, he and obviously, but like none of that matters if you play a bad game, and Dan didn't do that. Dan clearly played 6 good games.
Yep.
Yeah. One other element from Twitter is apparently this was helped to design the list by Mark the Beastman as well. So him
nice.
and Dan were definitely going together to make that list. As Mark was complaining the whole time that Dan was taking all the credit for it.
Co-credit. All right. Co-credit to Mark the Beastman. All right. Very good. I mean, it is in the name. One would assume he gets some kind of like royalty or partial credit for all winning Beastmen lists in the world just because that is his name.
Sure.
I'm not sure how the contract is
royalties. Yes,
yeah.
Indeed.
Does that work the same for Hobby Bear since he's got Lord of Death as his handle? I mean, like.
Yeah, I think so. Yes, he gets all death related royalties in the U.S. That's how.
Do you hear that?
Works.
Do you hear that, Brad? Hobby Bear gets all your death related royalties when you win events.
Who he did take best death at Waupaca too as well, didn't he? Again, adding to his endless his just stack. There's just got to be like a wall of best death trophies. Like legitimately, that dude does earn the title Lord of Death. He's won best death at almost every event I've been to, so it's not uncommon. Yeah, good stuff. All right, I think that's most of the tournament stuff. Hold on, let me see here. Martin had mentioned who won in the tournament in New York, and
I gotta say,
go ahead. Go ahead while I'm looking.
It was the Coglist army that really caught my attention at the New York tournament that Martin tweeted out. They had basically mini Doom wheels, but with more of a AOS Free People's feel that were definitely there. And he had taken a Luminarch and put a steam tank boiler underneath it and done all kinds of crazy stuff. It looked like an amazing army.
Yeah, apparently he 3D, he actually designed some of that stuff in CAD and then printed it out. That's great. Yeah, so it was first place went to Dan Caravan with Nurgle. Second was Joe of the Rage of Sigmar podcast. What did he win with? I don't know what he won with.
I don't know what Joe's playing. I think Korn, right? No. Was he Ideneth? I don't remember.
I'm not sure. Martin, you got to clarify what second place was. And third was Ron using Grand Host of Nagash. So there you go. Nagash, the interesting thing across all of those results was that, Death was strong in all of it, but not at the actual top. It was close every time. Death, the LON, they were close, but never all the way there. You look at they were second-ish, third-ish, and all across the weekend. They were silvers and bronzes, but no golds. Couldn't bring home the gold.
Lots of handmaidens of death.
Yeah.
Lots of bridesmaids.
Yes. Never the bride. All right. There you go. Oh, okay, cool. Deepkin. Yes. So second was Deepkin.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Apparently he also got best painted with that, Martin says, so that's pretty awesome.
Oh, nice. That's awesome. Well, they're an army that can look really hot with painting because you got all those, you got bright colors to deal with, you got cool sculpts. If you're looking to go all in on painting, it's a good one to do so. So
yeah, it's true.
All right, let's see what else we got in news. Yes, we're still in the news. I can't believe it either.
Gloomspite Gitz thing.
Yeah, the FAQ, which we'll talk about during the Gloomspite Gitz area to say if it to talk if there's any impact. I don't know that there's any huge ones. A lot of it was more cleanup and stuff. With one of the funniest two FAQs that literally all three of us were reading before the show, trying to determine what the change was, and finally figured it out. And it's the funniest small change that I would have never thought of. I would have read it 100 times and not noticed that I could have done that.
I probably would have pulled it out in an actual event and be like, I can do this, right? Sure. It says that. It's a very Tom thing to do. That's all.
Yeah, you wouldn't have sent it in a month in advance. You'd have thought of it a month in advance.
No.
You showed up at the event and said, hey.
Just pulled it out, yeah.
Yeah. I would have waited until that mirror match and be like, I can do this, right?
All right. So let's I think there's one more news item, I think is what you wanted to mention, Tom, which I will mention here as well. So two quick things, notes on the show. We are doing a limited run of Warhammer Weekly merch. I put a video up on it on Friday. I'll link the video down below. If you are interested, this is going to be a very limited thing. This is all very manual the first time around. We're just gauging interest. It's not a lot of options. We're just testing the waters here for this. Okay, so it'll be open until basically the 15th. If you have an order, there's a new email. I opened up a new email I should have done years ago, specifically for the show. So Warhammer Weekly Questions, you can find it in the description of every video from now on. As a side note, Paul, welcome to the 4th anniversary show of Warhammer Weekly. I bet you didn't even realize it, but this is literally our 4th anniversary show. This is our 100 and whatever, what is that, 158th show. So 4 years, right? 52 weeks. Yeah, that's right. Or no, 208. 208, sorry.
I feel super privileged, and you've not missed one, right?
I have not missed
How
one.
many has Tom missed?
Tom missed 3.
I'm not Travis. I'm not Eternally 16. I have missed more than 3 episodes. I know that you keep saying 3, and it was 3 like 2 years ago. I've probably missed 3. Like 12.
Well, I regret that I have not dressed up more, but I did dress my oven in a black tie affair. So
sure, it's good enough. It's the important part. So yeah, this is our 4th anniversary. We couldn't be happier, and very excited to close up 4 years and to turn towards beginning year 5. There's a lot of things I want to do with the show. This merch thing is just the first of it. None of my ideas for what I want to do with this have anything to do with making money, by the way, just to put that to the side right now.
We're going to monetize this bitch.
Yeah, that's not what any of this is about. Like, just be very clear. But if we can engage with the community more and build more stuff, then that's what I want to do. If we can have more fun and do more community stuff. So that's my goal over the next year. I want to look at like redesigning, standing up an actual website and having links to stuff like that and all those kinds of things. So it's all just a hope to continue building this great community and to keep sharing information and sharing everything out to everybody there. I want to thank everybody who's come along with us, whether this is literally your first episode and you're tuning in, or whether you've been here since, episode 1 way back 4 years ago. I really, really deeply want to thank you. It's so unbelievably appreciated every week. And I couldn't be more thrilled that we get to do this every week. So there's a reason I haven't missed a week. I take this very seriously. And it's because I love sharing this time with everybody.
I don't.
I have a burning question for Tom.
Yes.
Tom, go ahead.
Have you said hello, friends, on every episode that you've been on?
No.
Oh, really?
It wasn't a thing. Like, I didn't have a catchphrase initially, and then like I did it for a while, kind of accidentally, and then I didn't do it one time, and everybody lost their damn minds. Like they were like, "Where's hello, friends?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And apparently, it's a thing. And so now it's a thing. So it's been like the last probably year and a half that I've tried to open with it.
So, Vince, have you had your intro the whole time?
Yeah. Yes. Since episode 1. Yep.
Nice. Awesome.
I knew as soon as I did this show, I wanted to do that. I was like, it is very important to have a strong opening, and that will be the catchphrase. Like, that is what it is. Yes.
Yeah. Sincere congratulations for 4 years. Like, that's amazing. Even for a small business that's supposed to make money, you're not even supposed to make it through the first year. So not making money whatsoever and being constant for 4 years is rather impressive.
Well, it makes it easier.
Yeah, exactly. It does. For those asking about like, why are we doing this merch thing? Like, Vince has done a video on it, but let me just say, like, we're doing it because people have asked us for it.
Right.
It's not because like we're not making any money on this. Like, that's not a thing. Right. And so, yeah, like we're doing it because people have asked us to do it. That's it.
And so the hope here is this. Depending on how this first one goes, and like this will be stuff where I'm manually shipping it to everybody, and I'm going to give everybody individual shipping costs and stuff like that. But seeing how this all works out, if it goes well, whatever any money comes from this, I would like to reinvest into a larger merch thing to like go have, Stone Monk do some more art and get fun things like that and have some more t-shirt offerings. Like, I want to make sure anything we do is actually nice. I'm not interested in throwing stuff out here, and I'm not interested in making a profit. So I want it to be nice stuff that people can buy and have confidence in and things like that. So we got to do it the right way. So there you go. And so that's where we'll go. And there we, if this first round is successful, which it seems like it will be pretty good, then like it seems like there's a fair amount of interest, then we'll do some additional rounds. We'll expand the designs. We'll have more offerings. Hopefully we'll be able to do something about international shipping. We'll see what that looks like, because it's a killer right now. And I am sorry to all the international audience. I apologize for making you pay like full price international shipping, which is going to be expensive. Several people sending questions about how much it will be. I'm going to punch in all your addresses that you gave me, and I'll send you back an estimate. So that will happen.
So Vince, just as a quick aside, and you can ignore it if you want to.
No, you're fine.
If you have a contact person in the UK, you can send it in a bundle, and then they can send it out from there instead of doing individual shipping.
Yeah, well, I thought about that.
If anybody comes to Adepticon, they could probably pick it up there too, assuming it's...
Right. So that's what I was going to say. If you're here in the States, yes, that is correct. When you get your invoice or whatever, if you're here in the States, your invoice is going to say, this is your shipping cost or free, and mark it as pickup at Adepticon. I'm happy to bring everything to Adepticon. So if
you know what that's going to do? If Vince does that, what he's going to do is he'll probably leave it at whatever table that I'm playing at and just say, go find Tom. Because Tom's playing AOS in the same spot for 5 days straight.
Yeah, that's probably reasonable, right?
Yeah, like that's what he'll probably say, so that he doesn't have to carry it around.
So you just need to build your display so that you can store all the extra merch inside the.
That costs money,
right?
Oh, yeah, in my actual display board, that'd be amazing, but that's probably not going to happen, considering that my board's already almost done.
I think just build it up some. You just need you take it up 3 feet, and then you get a nice storage rack right underneath.
Exactly. Get a couple shelves in there, get some lighting.
What if it's already at 3 feet? That's the question.
Sure. Somebody else asked, do you mind if we can you pick it up at Nova? I mean, sure, I'll be there too. I don't know that you want to wait 9 months or 8 months or whatever to pick it up, but sure, if you would like to wait that long as opposed to avoid the shipping charge, I'm happy to bring anything to Nova. I would hope by that point, by the way, we'll be on round 2 of the merge and have this more put into a formal process, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, yes, that's certainly an option.
Yeah, because if there is enough interest, we will pursue having, rather than doing it like this, having it more readily available. Yeah. So that as an on-demand type of thing.
Also, to answer a question from earlier, Cinderfall Gaming put it out there. He said, about us coming to CanCon in 2020. I will say, obviously, nothing is set in stone yet. That's a long ways off. But I would very much
all proceeds go towards funding our international our national event trip.
I mean, unless there's a really cheap flight option I'm not aware of for
So you're either going to Ontario or Australia, depending on how much money you make.
I couldn't get
We're either going to an event in.
The profit from this merch order wouldn't get me an Uber to downtown in the city I live in. Okay.
Or CanCon or Biden.
Yeah. So no, but
or Dublin.
Yeah, but yes, I very much would like to come to CanCon next year. I've already started looking at how I can plan it out, and most importantly, the wife would very much like to go to Australia. She's been asking to go to Australia for a while. She doesn't really care if some of those days were taken up by a Warhammer tournament. She doesn't like spending that much time with me on vacations anyways. It's generally preferred that she has a couple days to go do whatever she wants. So, we'll see what we can do.
I may have mentioned it to my wife today about going to Australia next. Man, it's -9 outside right now, sweetheart. Wouldn't it be awesome to be somewhere in the southern hemisphere right now that's warmer? How does Australia sound? How does Australia sound? And she'd be like, yeah, Australia. And she's like, why? This was her literal response. Why? What Warhammer event is in Australia, and where in Australia is it? That was her opening response, and I was like, how about Canterbury? CanCon?
Canterbury? You mean
I don't know. Canberra, whatever.
Not England.
It doesn't matter. What they all talk funny and they're from somewhere else. Whatever.
Jeez, oh Pete's. Oh boy.
Just
yeah. Please, no. You can see. Please tweet all your complaints directly at Tom.
No. We have an email for this.
Yeah, you can at Tom on that stuff. All right.
Yeah. So up here in Wisconsin, it's colder than Antarctica today.
I saw that.
What happened? My car battery died, so I had to go out in Antarctic temperatures and take my battery out of my car, go get a new one, and put it back in my car. That was not the most fun experience I've ever had.
No, I imagine not. I flew back in today, which was a super fun experience. I was actually, my gate, by the way, Tom, had a canceled flight to your hometown because nobody was flying into your hometown. Your airport just shut down. They were like, nope. Planes don't go here anymore today. Sorry, folks. We're not equipped to deal with this. But I did get in late, a couple hours late, but I did get in. And I got in to pick up my car from the airport parking lot and found everything was free. They couldn't figure out how to get in the car. They couldn't figure out how to start the car. All my windows were frozen shut. I was like, just leave. Just leave. I'll deal with it. I got this. It's fine.
It's amazing.
So...
Anthony suggested that we do a Warhammer Wives seminar at CanCon.
Well, if I come down to CanCon next year, by the way, I will try to arrange it such that we do it that we can do like some painting classes there and stuff like that too. So I would want to set all that up. So
Waupaca,
I just want to play Warhammer.
Sure.
Waupaca used to do a Warhammer Widows weekend, so they would like arrange it so that all the widows would go together and go to spas and go see a play and all that kind of stuff. So that's not a terrible idea for CanCon, especially when you've got the largest AOS tournament in the world, right? You would imagine you'd find some traction for people to be able to do something like that.
Well, and I clearly have to go. I clearly have to go because Doom and Darkness has already grudged me for next year.
I'm excited for him to beat the living just snot out of you. Round one.
I do like myself a submarine. Mm-hmm. So I've done it pretty well the last couple of years at Adepticon.
Sure. You start low and work your way back up, resurface around the top tables. All right. So let's get to some pick of the week, gentlemen. Paul, what would you like to share with everybody for your pick of the week?
So I'm going to go with kind of an irregular one.
Okay.
But the Made to Order has the Moon Clan Boss and the Moon Clan War Boss.
Yeah.
Both of which are absolutely amazing sculpts. And I believe one of them used to be a White Dwarf only model or something, if I'm not mistaken. So that's pretty amazing to have those models come back. They could have chosen any models they wanted to. And they actually put a large number of models on the Made to Order, much more than they usually do. So I'm going to definitely be picking those up. And I know people who have literally been ransacking eBay for years trying to find those models. So that's going to be my pick of the week. Those are amazing.
No, it's a hot pick. And here's what I'll say. So I went through.
Shoot. Sorry, go ahead.
You're fine. I have shelves of all the old armies that aren't like stuff I actively play. They're just armies that have we've collected over the years, 20 years to try to build up. So I went through and I found all my old squigs and my old herders. Like I have the old little musician homie up here, right? This little guy that they based the new dude on. He's super fun.
I love that guy. Yeah.
And all the old squig sculpts. And there'll be a tutorial on painting squigs coming. Here's a little squig I painted for that. He's all happy. Aww. Mr. Teeth. And so in looking through and pulling out all the old goblins, because I want to see, well, how much of this army do I actually own? Just out of curiosity, I found I had all of those, who knows, just get stuck somewhere. I found that I had all those basically everybody who's on the Made to Order, I had sitting in that cabinet, like all the old Grot shamans and what are sort of Grot bosses, that's what they were, whatever goblin bosses. So I kind of pulled them all out too. They're really nice sculpts. So
that's amazing. I'm gonna have to. I had forgotten that those night goblins were on there. I'm gonna have to pick those up. They're sharp.
Yeah, especially the double moon halberd guy.
The war boss, the war boss guy is hot. I also like the night goblin shaman with the skull winged staff one. That's all up in it. He's sweet. No, what I was going to say in the news that I forgot to mention. So then my pick of the week is going to be related to this then, since I didn't. A bunch of stuff is on last chance to buy, and I don't understand why, but it's there. And so you all need to know this. The War Scryer Citadel on last chance to buy. Okay.
Yeah.
Which is like my favorite terrain piece ever. Is available now in last chance to buy. Which is the War Scryer Citadel or the Lair of the Astromancer. For those that didn't know, the Battle Mages, the dual Battle Mage kit is last chance to buy from the Free Peoples, that very flexible wizard kit.
Oh, really? I did not know that.
Yeah, V8 mages. Yeah. The Squig dice are last chance to buy. The ones that came out 2 weeks ago?
Sure.
A lot of them.
Hold on.
They did a single run and they have to be like, that's it.
hold on. The Gloomspite Gitz cards are last chance to buy. You know, the ones that just came out for the army that was published 2 weeks ago?
They must have sold a lot of
them. So for those that are interested, go buy your stuff now. And then finally, the Slaves to Darkness Godsworn Warband is last chance to buy. That was the army box from Christmas for Slaves to Darkness. The only reason why I bring that up is that so I made a call. Like, so one thing we talked about like the rhyme or reason why we get these boxes. And what we saw last year was we saw some like retrospective boxes for the Christmas boxes of like what like it was either armies released that year or it was the army in the next year that we were going to get a book release for. Because basically we got a bunch of new armies plus a death box, and we got Legions of Nagash like 2 months later. This year we had 2 of the new releases, Ideneth and Daughters boxes. And then the 2 new ones the 2 old boxes were Seraphon and Slaves to Darkness, both of which we've had rumors for new army books potentially this year.
Right.
And so that is a great deal, the Slaves to Darkness box. Oh, and let me also note that the Flesh Eater Courts skirmish box is now sold out. It was last chance to buy. So that was up, and then that's now gone. I say all that to say there's some really interesting, weird stuff in Last Chance to Buy, and I wouldn't want folks to miss it.
Okay. Easy enough.
You know, I actually bought the Ideneth Battle Force.
Okay.
And then I sent it back and returned it because I wanted Gloomspite instead.
It's legit. I get it.
It's perfectly fair.
It is perfectly fair.
All right. So my pick is going to be pretty simple. We mentioned that awesome game of Game 6 of KonCon. Well, guess what? You can see it live. Well, not live. You can see it. What happened? Recorded live. Now watch it. In replay. There you go. Yes. So all of the Honest Wargamer coverage of everything is on YouTube. It's on their Twitch channel. And I would highly recommend that 6th game. When I say it was, here's the legitimate thought that crossed my mind as I was watching it. So like I said, it's like 1 a.m. It went on till like 3:30 or something. I was up Saturday night watching it. And my legitimate thought was, is this what people who like sports feel like when they watch sports? Because I was actually really interested in what was going on and like felt the emotion of like, oh no, oh, this happened. Oh no. You know, and I was like involved. I have never given a flying hoot about any sports related thing on the television ever in my life. Okay. Not once, not any Super Bowl, not anything ever. I've never cared about any kind of match of any professional team because I have no emotional connection to that thing. Okay. And like, even when I played football, I didn't watch football. I didn't find it interesting. I liked playing it. I didn't like watching it. But this was such a great game. And to watch these 2 fantastic players be at the end of this road and moreover, what was really good about it was the nature of the coverage. I just want to give a shout out to Rob and to Honest Wargamer here and to everybody who was involved in this, which is Dan from AOS Shorts and other Dan and Nathan and everybody. Because he broke it up really well. It's not just like watching the game for 2.5 hours. That's not what it is. Like during the game, they would cut away. They gave results from the other tables. They were talking about how those armies were doing. They cut away and they showed you like what the armies in like contention for best painted were and stuff like that. They really had just a perfect way to cover it where it was broken up, but they kept the interest high. It was great. This is the way to cover these kinds of events. A+ work, Rob. Fantastic coverage. You can go and watch it all still. I'll link it down below. I can't recommend it enough. I loved it. I watched it all weekend. Thought it was wonderful. So, well done. I hope he covers many more events in Australia and the UK and here in the US as time goes by. So, there you go. Okay. All right. With that, gentlemen, let's turn to some hobby time. So, Paul, what's on your stove, man? What's on your table? What are you working on?
Well, I did just finish my Night Haunt army
Yes.
for Waupaca this last weekend. And now I have some endless spells for Gloomspite and the Lone Shrine on my hobby table. So,
what's your hot pick since we didn't get to talk to you? Give us some insight before we get into the book itself, because I'm sure the endless spells will come back up. But what's your favorite endless spell? I think, as I said, I think 3 out of the 4 of them are good. But what's your one? If you had to pick one, what's your pick?
Well, it's obviously the Arachne Cauldron.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, it is.
It obviously is. Do you want to hear my my secret filth with it?
Sure. Why not?
All right. The reason why it's the Arachne Cauldron is because when you cast the Arachne Cauldron counts as the model that cast it, and the model that cast it counts as the Arachne Cauldron. Right. So number one, it's not a friendly model to everybody on the table, unlike most endless spells. But number two, if it counts as the model, and you cast it towards the enemy, that means you've got another 5 to 6 inches range towards the enemy that you can cast spells from.
Yeah, because it's an oblong base, and so you gain spell range, and you can pull yourself into combat by casting it.
You can pull yourself into combat. You can extend your battle shock range, like you can extend the totem. It's a super duper useful little thing.
It's so cheater. I love it.
It's so cheater. Like I was reading it and I was like, this can't actually be the way that it works, right? This is actually cheating. And like I read the rules again and I was like, nope, this is exactly how it works.
Hot tip. I love it. All right, that's fantastic. That's so wonderfully sneaky. And I love everything about it. That's great. Okay, good stuff. Tommy, what's on your table, man? You've been sitting there, you've been like shaking a canary at us the whole time you've been talking every so often.
Yeah. So I'm like on my literally my final stage of highlighting.
Okay.
For the canary, and then I'll do the blood effects on the base, and then edge the bases, and they're done. So I will have gotten all 15 of them done. I might bring the wings up a little bit higher for the whites, just to make them really pop. And then I've been spending like an inordinate amount of time like building my board for the daughters. And it's coming out so good. I am. Before I was like, I don't know if this is gonna work, and then it has worked far beyond what I anticipated. And so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 12. I have 12 more harpies that I need to finish up for my board, above and beyond the harpies that are on bases. And once that's all done, it's gonna be pretty exciting. So I'm gonna move on, and then I'll have one real model left to do. I have my converted Cauldron of or my Slaughter Queen on Cauldron. I stole some of the ideas from other people for the popular Yvrain conversion double Cauldron stuff. I did that. I have some additional tweaks that I've made on a bunch of different models, and so kind of made it my own. So I'll have that coming out. That's the final true model for that army. And then I have to make the decision on, for my 1K, do I stick with my daughters that I'll have like fully painted up and everything? Or do I pull the trigger on trying to get all my, get my 1K Gloomspite force for Akon? So we'll see.
You know the answer to that, Tom.
I mean, the plan was to do my 1K of like, the last 2 weeks has been, I'm going to do 1K Gloomspite. But then I was like, but I can spend the next month and a half just like making all the painting really good on the daughters, like going back through and doing all the hair and like taking up everything up another higher level on all 70 witches. Or I can take spiders. And so I don't know. I really want to kind of take spiders. So we'll see. That might still happen. Considering
I heard you commit to 3 different armies.
I did.
I did. You commit to that.
That was the plan. 3 different armies, 3 different events. So
if you do 2 daughters armies,
it
wouldn't be 3 different armies, would it?
But if I don't know. Maybe we'll see. We'll see.
Just saying.
What if it uses almost no duplicate models between the 2 daughters armies? Like, does that count?
It's still the same army. I mean, like,
Okay,
if you're counting for death armies, right? The Mortarch of Blood, the Mortarch of Night. If they feel the same models, do they count as the same army or not?
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see.
Well, very good. Well, I look forward to seeing what you come to, Tom. Obviously, the answer is bring the Gitz. For myself, as I mentioned, I just flew back in a day. I've been traveling all week, so my hobby time has been sadly lacking. That being said, I did manage to make some good progress on this girl from last week. So we have her wings here as well and stuff like that. So she's coming along. There's still some refinement to do on her. But she has a nice glowy, she has some nice glowy magic, and she has these little glowy spirits that come up in front of her and stuff like that. So you can see the color shift there. If we go like that side, she's got all the pink, and then you come to that side and it's all the blue. So she'll be fun. She's a little OSL fun experimentation. Great model in the end. She's been a lot of fun to paint, and I'll wrap her up here pretty soon. So, and then after that, there's a completely different thing I need to turn to. I need to turn to probably maybe my last thing for Crystal Brush and for Adepticon. I want to get that done, and then we can return back to Slaanesh. So, but she'll be a Demon Princess Slaanesh, so that's good. I'm not leaving Slaanesh behind, but I gotta take an interim break here with a competition piece. So there you go. All right. So, gentlemen, shall we talk about some Gitz? Shall we get to them Gitz? All right.
Tom says painting.
Sure, absolutely.
I'm super excited.
Okay, so here we go.
No, I just know at the end of the show, I'm going to have to do a third army for Adepticon. I was looking forward to not having to to push my painting for the next month and a half.
All right. I want to start the show with what we didn't talk about last time, at all. Okay? Trolls. That's right. Now, I know that's not where your heart's at, Paul.
It's not.
But that's okay. Because we didn't give the trolls their due last time, and I feel it is important. So obviously for our trolls, we're talking about we've got the Trog boss, the Dankhold Troggoth himself, the new kit. We've got Mollog, Mr. Named Troll, and his little stalag squigs that come out of his little squig buddies, come out of Night Vault. You got your Fellwater, your Rock Gut, which is the refreshed kit, and you've got the Troll Queen, the Troll Hag, Lady Troll from Forge World. All right.
Yep.
All right.
The Troll Bride.
Troll Bride. Sure, we can have whatever we like. Okay. So, and then obviously there's support for throughout the army for all these things. Just let's refresh everybody's mind with a few things. So first off, your Troggoth renewal ability is when you're in the light of the bad moon, and the troll uses its regeneration ability. You can re-roll the dice that determines if the ability heals any wounds, or you can double the number of wounds that are healed by the ability if the first roll is successful. So if you don't need a re-roll, you can double the wound roll on the regen. Now, most importantly, as we mentioned earlier, we did get the FAQ. Okay. And in the FAQ, there is the designer's commentary. And the question came up of does the light of the bad moon have any effect on the Troggoth Hag's Hag regeneration ability? And the answer is no, it does not. So there you go. Just so we're all clear on that. So, gentlemen, Paul, why don't you take us off? What do you like in trolls? What catches your attention? What do you think is good? What do you think about troll armies? All that kind of thing.
Well, I think the troll army is going to look amazing on the table, right? That's a flat out. They have possibly the best model range of any army right now. I mean, obviously the Canary, everything to do with Otters of Cain is absolutely amazing. They do have one over the kit, but it looks great. But I mean, man, the Rockgut Troggoth kit, just such an amazing kit. So many different ways to put it together. It's just incredible. The Fellwater Troggoth has tempted me from the moment it was released. It's such a gorgeous, gorgeous kit.
It's an enduring kit, right? It's classic, but it still looks good. Yeah.
Yep. And then you've got the Dankhold Troggoths and the Troggoths, and then of course Mollog. They're all amazing sculpts. The only thing is I don't know how much conversion I'd be able to do with the Trogloss and the Trogoths, just because they are made to go together one way. But when the worst thing you can say about a kit is that I can't think of great conversions for it because it's so beautiful to begin with, that's not a bad thing to say about an army, right?
Yep.
But as it is, like, I mean, if you want an army to have some rend, like, this is your army, flat out. Everything in the army has rend too.
And it's your anvils. Like, I would argue that it's your, like, they are your tough units in the army. Goblins don't have a lot of tough units. And, like, it's funny, we're going to talk about the individual trolls here in a minute, but everybody's taken with the Fellwater trolls. And, like, I have 6 of them on my shelf, and they're great, but I'm taken with the Rot Guts. They're really good on the numbers, and I don't think that a lot of people have actually run the math of what that -1 is doing versus the 5-up ward save.
Well, it's interesting because I think that the Fellwaters are a better. I like the way they're both different. I think the Fellwaters are a better hammer between their vomit, which is quite decent as a -2 rend D3 damage shooting attack, short range but still effective. Like, they're going to generally want to use it on what they're in combat with anyways, right? Like, ideally they move up to within 6 inches, vomit on somebody, and then charge in, and that's seems like a winner to me.
A potent 1-2 punch. Yeah.
Yes. In melee they're fine. They're good. Like, there's nothing wrong with Fellwater Trogoths and specifically just their melee attacks. Like, 4 attacks on 3s and 3s, -1, 2 damage is certainly a very decent attack profile. No doubt about that. The Rock Guts are a great anvil in my mind. Like, I think they're the winner anvil because of that 5-up feel no pain save, right? It is flat out better defensively than -1 to hit in melee. Like, it just is, other than a few very corner case situations.
Right. And not only is it better on, like, against melee, it's also like that -1 to hit is only in close combat, where that feel no pain actually cuts a 3rd damage off of all incoming damage.
Ostensibly everything, right? Yeah. Spell, shooting, melee, everything, right? Yeah. And yeah, I mean, like, the Rock Guts, like, rock throw is, as has been mentioned in some of the comments, like, not the greatest thing probably in the world, right? Because you have to you're rolling under your number of trolls, like, in your unit to do the D3 mortals. But okay, like, it's still not bad to go pick a character out and do D3 mortal wounds to him in some cases. It's not worthless. It's just not as optimal as it could be, right?
Right.
It is easier to whack a character in this situation than it would be if you were measuring against the target unit, which I would generally use this as, like, there's a character hiding behind the line that has 1 or 2 wounds left. Pop. Right? That's what I'm trying to use this for. But again, that's admittedly not broadly. That's not anywhere near vomit level good. No. The
Rock Gut throw is just worse as far as a ranged attack. But I don't care about that. Like, I'm not taking these guys for the ranged attack. I'm taking these guys because I want a high rend, high damage anvil. And that's what they are. Like, that's what they like. So what, like, let me get this straight. This is an anvil that, like, so where goblins are an anvil that isn't, unless you don't buff them, they aren't really going to be able to punch back very hard. This is an anvil that when it punches back, it can cripple enemy units.
Yeah, I think the advantage of the Rock Guts in my mind is that they're pretty decent at operating alone.
Yes.
Right? There's not a lot in this army. There's not a lot in this army that wants to, like, truly operate alone. But, like, 6 or 9 Rock Gut Trogoths can just more or less operate alone. Their only true weakness is their bravery does still suck. They're still bravery 5, so you do have to be a little careful there. But between their regen and their stony skin and the fact that they can, carve through armor in a grind, they're a very decent anvil, certainly. Now, what I'll say that's interesting about the throw-in boulders, okay, just to slightly defend it, is it's not actually a shooting attack, so they can still do it when they run.
Yep, and they don't get -1 to hit or -1, like any of the spells that you put on there to defend them. They're just going to ignore that straight out. So It's got its bonuses and it's got its negatives. I mean, especially when it's something you can't buff. It's nice to have something that if you have 6 models in the unit, it's guaranteed to hit.
Yep.
Right?
have a rock.
When you've got 6 trolls, it's just point click D3 mortal wounds to something within 12 inches. That's not bad. Like, KO takes a special ability to be able to do that once a game, and it's one of their better abilities they can take. I'm just saying. It's called There's No Trading with some people, and, you know.
And you have to do damage in order to trigger it.
Yes. But, you know, there we are. Yeah, my point is, like, I think both of the baseline troll units are actually designed exactly as they would want to be. You have one more hammery suit like light anvil and one more light hammer heavy anvil, right? Like they're both interesting mixes that lean in a direction and have a clear sort of battlefield role in my mind. Now, let's move to our new boys, Mr. Dankhold.
I was saying the only thing that makes me sad about them is they don't have 4+. Like the rock guts don't have 4+.
If they were a 4-up armor, yeah, I'd be boy oh boy would I be. They'd be in it to win it then. Yes.
Yeah, but then why would you take the river trolls though? I mean, like
because they're going to put out more damage. Like on average, the river trolls between their spit and their multi-attacking, because they have more multi-attacks, they're going to put out more damage on average.
Yeah, but that's still like that's a pretty clear difference, right? With the 4+, I don't know. That makes her a very, very strong core unit, especially with regen, right? Like, I mean,
yeah. Go talk to Death. Go talk to Death. I mean, you're talking about a 4+ save with a 5-up after save that can regen. Okay, yeah, thanks, great. You're on like what, Graveguard? Like that's what we're talking about here, or Hex Wraiths. Congratulations.
Well, I mean, I would the easy example in my mind of like heavier units like that is when you look at things like Puskoils have that kind of a profile, right? Like on a 4-up, 5-up, feel no pain, and they're obviously they have more wounds, but it's a low model count defensive thing that can sometimes regen.
Are they battle line too? I mean, like
that's a good
battle line purpose, right?
Sure.
And that's a super nice thing to have.
That's true.
But your battle line is not useless.
It's true.
Completely agree. In the troll army. All right. So let's talk about our Dankhold buddies. So we've got our Dankhold Trog boss and our Dankhold Troggoth. Okay, so the regular troll. There's your opinion. Yeah, I got it. I gotta like. To me, he's a tax, right? Because he's the thing that has to be your general. If you take the battalion, he's, you got to have one of him, right? And he's at best okay. Now, he's not terrible. I'm going to call him okay. You know what I mean? Like, that's where I come down on this guy. He's 300 points. I mean, 12 wounds with no damage chart. Let's all just appreciate that for a moment, right? He's like an Eidolon or something where he's got over 10 wounds but didn't bother to get a damage chart. So that's nice. But like offensively, he is as swingy as all get out. Like, my God, will this guy sometimes just do nothing, right?
Well, this guy is just begging to be broken when they release the new set of endless spells, and if there is a endless spell that increases number of attacks.
Sure.
Because like what he needs to multi-attack with his crushing grip.
Right.
And if you could multi-attack with the crushing grip, you'd actually have some gas in the engine. But as it stands now, you can't. And so you need to be able to increase that and get multi-attacking out of it.
But he's also the only hero in the army, so he's the only one that can get command.
Not true. Yes, that's true. But you could have a hag queen who could.
She can't get the command traits or the artifacts, right? Like,
she can't get the specific to the troll artifacts, but she can get like the realm artifacts. And then you have another hero actually, which is the Mollog, who's a 180 point or 160 point troll hero. Which I think he's also technically a Dankhold as well.
He does have a Dankhold keyword, yes.
Yeah, and so, but he can't get the traits because obviously he's a named character.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So it's just if you use any of the Dankhold traits, or like if you think those are good, it's the only way to get them, right? Which might fit into your definition of the tax because you have to take them in order to get these things.
Right. Yeah, I to me, the Trog boss feels like a tax, but he's not the worst tax, right? It's not like you put him on the table and he's totally, completely worthless. It's just like, okay, his command ability is fine enough, right? Like he makes trolls around him reroll hit rolls of 1. Okay, it's not terrible. You know, there's a lot of his homeboys are largely, you know, hitting on 3s, so cool. All right.
The reality is when I see him, you know what I see? 300 points that could have either been spent on a Mangler, or 300 points that could have been spent on a Colossal Squig, or 300 points that could have spent on an Arachnarok.
I don't disagree. Like when you compare this guy to like the Loon Boss on Mangler Squig, there's no comparison, right? Like, yes, obviously the Loon Boss on Mangler is such a more powerful choice. But if you're in the all troll army and you're taking the troll battalion, this is the guy. He, you know, and that's why I say
you don't have a choice. Yeah.
Right.
Yep. But in this army, he's competing for a spot, like in a not just in a normal like list with a bunch of other like very strategic, powerful pieces. For ironically the exact same point cost, 300 points. The Arachnarok with Shaman, which is like the superior caster, arguably, if like that supplementing Skragrot, it's like such a good caster. You can have obviously the more powerful melee piece and the Mangler that also flies, and then or you could just have the Colossal, which you can just, you know, shove down people's throats.
Sure. No, I don't disagree. But like, yeah, my ultimate feeling on the Dankhold Trog boss is, sure, he's fine enough in a troll army. I wouldn't take him in a more generic, evenly spread army where I'm taking, like, I would certainly take some of the regular trolls in a mixed army, right? Like, I can see uses for them 100%. I don't think the Trog boss has a point outside of a Trog army.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, right? But I mean, if you're spending 80 points, you get a command trait, and you get an artifact, and you get 2 more wounds, right? Command trait and artifact is 50 points apiece, right?
Sure.
So you're only paying another 80. He's 300 versus 220, right?
Sure. Well, that leads us to the Dankhold Troggoth, the main Troggoth themselves. These guys are exactly 220, bought in ones.
The worst. That's what they are. They're the worst.
You can have up to 3 in the unit. And yes, like these guys, I've got to say, like, I don't. Okay. Yep. They still get the crushing grip thing. It's fine.
Yep.
They're.
Like, you know what? That crushing grip. Awesome. You know what I'd rather have? Crushing grip at 160 on a giant.
I mean, they have the attack problem of the bigger Troggoth, but worse.
Yeah.
You know, like they're just. Well, I mean, there is a small difference there in the crushing grip on the trolls. It's roll greater than or equal to. So, like, you can't fail to crush 1 wound models. Look, it happens, man. Okay.
Yeah.
When you have to roll greater than, you will sometimes roll 1s. You're trying to grab a standard bearer out of a unit, and sure enough, you roll the 1, and he failed to get him down your pants. Sure. Just saying. But yeah. All in all, like, I think the Dankholds look cool. I think honestly they look amazing as kits go. But I'm not sure, even in an all troll army, I would take I don't think I would put the Dankhold Troggoths on the table. The boss has got to be there. The regular Troggoths don't.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to spend $60 on this model.
It's fine. Let's talk about the last guy. Okay, well, we'll move to the Troll Hag in a second, but the last guy, the last new guy.
The Mollog.
Mollog, yeah. So, Mollog is our named special character with his little squiggy buddies, his little unique squiggers. Outside of he comes out of the out of Night Vault or whatever, right? And so, Mollog is 170 points. He has 8 wounds, but he actually effectively has 11 to 12 wounds.
Yep.
Sort of depending on how you count it, right? He is he does have the Dankhold keyword. He is not, somebody asked about whether or not like he would open them up as battle line or stuff like that. And the answer is no, because he's not a Dankhold Trog boss. That's a specific thing. He's just Dankhold. He's not a Dankhold Trog boss. That's a specific thing. That's like, those are both keywords on the Dankhold Trog boss. Right. He has both of those keywords. All right. So, Paul, what do you think about Mollog?
Well, He's an awesome model.
Yes.
I like the fact that he has minions. Like, that immediately makes him amazing. Right? Like, the minions are just a cool thing. Do we have these on the Zinj Sorcerer, right?
Yep.
He had those little familiars that he was with. So they have little things that they do that are kind of cool. So that's kind of fun. It's awesome to just be able to negate mortal wounds, right? Be like, oh, I'm taking away this minion, and I negate it. But, like, I mean, 1 mortal wound for the Puff Fungus Club on a 2-3.
Yeah.
And 4+ D3 mortal wounds. I mean, so it's like an Arachnarok, but worse. Like, he's cool, but yeah.
This guy he's so mysterious to me, Mollog, as to what his purpose is, right? So
I love him. You know what I love him for?
Go ahead, I'm
ready. I originally was like, yeah, no, thank you. Like, he's not doing damage. He's this weird utility piece that can maybe do some debuffing. Like, it just doesn't make any sense for me.
Well, he can be taken, and just to be real quick, he can be taken in the battalion because he does have the right keywords. Yeah.
Okay. And so I was like, I don't get it. Like, I don't understand what he's doing. And I wrote him off. And then I went back and looked at him, and it dawned on me there's some really interesting interplays here.
Okay.
One is that he's a hero, 11 to 12 wound hero for 160 points that can hold objectives.
I think he's 170. Hold on,
170. Yeah, 170.
Yes, 170.
170. And I was like, okay, 12 wound, 11 wound hero that can hold objectives. Okay.
Sure.
On a not large base, like, right? Mm-hmm. On a 4-up save, something that the army doesn't have a lot of, right?
Fair enough.
And then I was, and that heals, that heals and can double his healing if he rolls the 4+. Sure. So he can heal 2d3 on like those 8 wounds base. And then it dawned on me in your discussion, Paul, of the Arachne Cauldron, that like his minions count as himself, so he can create these really weird chains where all of his attacks can trigger off the minions because like they have to be within 1 inch. Yeah. And he can use the minions to extend his own attacks. Because his minions are treated as a single model using the characteristics above. The minions must be within 1 inch of the Mollog model. So you can't like string them out, but you can use them to extend his own ranged attacks and his own stuff. Mm-hmm. So there's a weird little like measurement boost of 1 inch range there from those guys. So even though his like technically he has a 1 inch reach, he actually has 2 inches depending on how you put the minions.
Well, and the other thing is that he has a move of 6 inches, right? But he gets to move his minions within 1 inch.
Right.
So,
and so
you can have him moves, back, and then with them forward, you can move 7 inches.
Right.
With his range, right? So.
And you could do some hinky stuff where like he has a really small base, like Vince, we always talk about like power per inch.
Yeah, sure.
Power per square inch. Like he has this really weird inverse thing where like not a lot of things can be leveraged against him.
Sure.
Because of his actual small base size compared to his wound count. Because like you get like, let's say you get Volkites around him, right? You're going to get a handful of them because he's not on a large base.
Right. Yeah, because he's meant to fit in Shadespire. So they couldn't put him on some 100 mil round or something, right? Like, yeah.
Right. And so he just has this really interesting, like what I would call him like a tech piece. Does that make sense? Where like he can do things that none of the other heroes can do. He can break line of sight. Like none of your other troll heroes are breaking line of sight.
Yeah.
Well, he's such a fascinating piece to me for his points cost.
Because he also a monster.
Right. He's not a monster. That is correct. He is not a monster. So he can go walk onto, he's not affected by anything that says monsters. He's not a behemoth, so he can go get cover and all that stuff, right? Like sure.
He can get the obstacle bonus, so he goes to a 3-up save. Like he becomes a really interesting piece in the army that you just can't have any other way. And as Dan Caravan has said, he can give -1 to hit in 2 different ways.
Yes, between his Jabber Toad and his Spite Shroom.
So again,
those aren't the highest chances to happen, right?
No. But again, he's a tech piece. He's not this is not a beater. This is not a tank. But he's this really interesting, unusual piece at arguably a bargain value of 170.
here's what I'll say. He is one of the cheapest, toughest heroes if you're just looking for somebody to go sit on a hero point, right? In a hero game. The problem is he can't. It'd be so much better if he weren't named, so he could like carry an item. Yeah.
Or unique.
Yep.
Right. You could have multiple of him in the army.
Yeah. But like
because then you could have a 4-up save. If you did that, you could do like the scale and do a 4-up mortal wound save.
Sure.
Like, and suddenly he shoots off the charts in effectiveness.
Yeah, it really is like him being unique and being a named character is such a limiting factor for him, which is a shame. That's what's keeping him from being great, right? But he's interesting because like he has the same spell resistance as the other Dankhold trolls. He does do the bravery buff, right?
Yep. The 12 inches, yeah.
Yeah, he has like the 12-inch +1 bravery buff to all Gloomspite Gitz units. He's a pretty cheap little bravery buff to everybody around. Offensively, he is the weakest hit in the universe. My God Almighty, does this guy hit like a feather?
He's like, leave me alone. Stop hitting me. I don't want to fight. I want to go sleep. And if you read his war, that's literally it. He's like, leave me alone.
Yeah. So he just wants to sleep. He's just angry because you woke him up. Poor guy. But yeah, I mean, this guy does less than no damage. Now, it is funny to get him into combat with, like, if you happen to get him into combat with, like, basically other, similarly pointed 5, 6, 7 wound heroes, because he actually stands a fair chance of winning that fight, like attritioning them down. Just because he'll like kind of 1 or D3 mortal wound them on average, whereas he's kind of tough enough and regenerate enough that like they won't tend to kill him. But a unit's just gonna splatter this guy. Like a good offensive unit will just splatter this guy. So there you go.
He's a very unique piece.
He is one of the. Here's what I'll say. He probably is the most interesting port from Underworlds we've gotten as a unit thus far that I've seen.
I would agree with that.
Which is funny because a lot of them I look at and I just go like, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
All right. So, I think the advantages of the troll army in my mind are like, you've got a pretty decent battalion. That's more or less everything you'd want to do. I wouldn't take giants in it. I would just take trolls. I don't see the need for the giants. It can have
I don't know. That sounds really interesting.
Sure. It can have most of the army you want.
Like it.
Yeah. It can have most of the forces you would want and then supplement it so you can keep your drops relatively low. The problem with the troll army is the same problem that all hyper elite forces like that have, right?
Yeah.
Which is that they have like no bodies, so you've got to supplement it with goblins, right? I mean, I don't know how else you play that army.
You body
without
block
supplementing
it
with goblins.
You have to body block off objectives. Like that's the only way to do it is to actually like push people off the footprint of the 6-inch bubble.
Yeah. Yes. And you can body block people off, but there's a limitation on that, right? You just don't have the numbers. Like you don't have the board presence is another way to say it. Now those trolls can spread out fairly far. They're on decent sized bases, but that's as much of a hindrance as it is a help, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
But all in all, so like the way I think of the troll army is 1, amazing looking army, 2, very fun army. I think it will play well. Like I don't think it's going to play.
It'll play like
poorly.
good ogres.
Yeah. And but like hyper competitive, no, I don't think it's that. But that's okay. All right, who cares? that's not every army should or needs to be that, right? There you go.
Yeah. I think the problem that keeps it from being competitive is that the command traits and the artifacts don't do anything to buff any other unit besides the Trog boss himself.
Right.
So the only thing you can do to buff is give a reroll 1 to hit.
Right.
Which is fine, but like you can do that a Night Haunt with a Spirit Torment. Then you can add in all this other stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
There's just no there's just no buffs to be had.
There's no synergy, right?
Right.
Like, the thing about AOS is synergy. And this army has no synergy. It has complementarity.
The trolls don't.
Yeah, they can regen, right? And they can move all 6 inches, but that's it. right? There's no synergy between all the different trolls in this army. They're all individual units that all do their individual thing relatively well.
Yeah. Now, obviously, if you mix in some goblins, you can start doing. There are still things you can do, like you can still Hand of Gork these guys around, right? That's still a thing you can do.
And you don't have to mix in goblins to do that, by the way. You do a troll hag.
You can troll hag it. Yes,
with
I understand.
With the cauldron.
So we got to talk about the troll hag now.
Yeah. So now that's a great segue into the troll hag. So, because yes, so ostensibly, if you're playing it straight, the lore of the Moon Clan, which is Moon Clan wizards only, gives you things like the Hand of Gork, which can teleport your trolls around and all that kind of stuff, which is great. You know, the Great Green Spite. Okay, you can pick, that can be picked for trolls. But we have our troll hag. And the troll hag, who got updated with the keyword, she can summon our Arachna Cauldron. So, Paul, walk us through the troll hag, buddy, and why she's amazing.
She's amazing because she's a troll.
I mean, sure.
She's amazing because she can cast spells, right? It's the only spellcaster in the army. She's just, I don't know. She's amazing. She was amazing before the book. She's amazing after the book.
She does
everything that you wanted everything to do in this army, but doesn't.
I mean, she has at least 2 big reasons why she's the best.
Okay. I don't get it, Tom. What are you saying? Can you explain that for me? Her vomit and her spell casting, is that what you mean? Because I agree. Those are both really good things.
No, it's such low-hanging fruit, Vince.
Oh. Is it the fact that she can get the cauldron and the fact that her spell is actually, like, the spell she comes with is a really good spell?
No, you're just swinging all around that low-hanging fruit, Vince. And it's the fact that she has these wonderful, wonderful -1s to hit.
Sure.
Both the one that's baked into her, and then also the fact that she has a spell that grants it as well. And the spell that grants it also gives a penalty to armor saves as well.
Yep.
I mean, that's and like you give her like a Griff Feather Charm or something like that, and so suddenly she's at like -2 natively, can grant -3 to somebody she's in combat with. You know, heaven forbid there's a Geminids floating around, and suddenly those models that were hitting on 2s are hitting on 6s now.
She's obviously a super solid pick. She's 380, but you know, she's a big model, 14 wounds, 4 up save. Her vomit is absolutely fantastic, right? Like she has a tremendously good ranged attack by the standards of the rest of the army at 10 inches and making 6 shots on 3s and 3 -2. She has like super fellwater vomit, right? In melee, she's decent enough, certainly. Like it's not bad. She's not great, but she can fight her way out of, you know, some moderate engagements. She is, as you mentioned, a spellcaster, and then of course summoning the good old Arachna Cauldron, and now all of a sudden it's a whole new world has opened up to her. So yeah, I mean, talk about the cauldron there and what you know what this opens up for her, Paul.
Well, it opens up the entire lore of the Moon Clans, right? As opposed to everything else that you do when you choose one model. This just gives you all 6 models to begin with, right?
Spells.
So Hand of Gork.
Spells.
Sorry, all 6 spells, excuse me. So Hand of Gork, to begin with, is an amazing spell, right? I mean, it's a teleport. It's basically what you get with, you know, the teleport banner and Stormcast. It's just a super nice thing that allows you to get what you need, where you need it to go, when you need to get there. And of course, that's amazing. You also get Itchy Nuisance, which allows you to say, this unit doesn't attack until the end of the phase. So I can just beat face as long as I want to. And that's fantastic because that's what you want to do with trolls, right? Even though they have regen, nobody wants to lose a model before they do all the damage they want to be able to do with that unit. So, I mean, like, those 2 spells alone are just fantastic. And then you've got some damage to the spell, just the Great Green Spite. So it just opens up a whole new world and a whole new option. Instead of having to get face-to-face with the enemy, you can either, number 1, get yourself face-to-face faster, or number 2, deal some damage at length, more than 12 inches, which is what this army really benefits from.
Yep. Yeah,
to jump in.
She's such a perfect piece. Like,
well,
and I want to hold on. I just want to correct one thing in the comments because the statement was made of like that the vomit would reroll ones to hit from the Trog boss's command ability. It would not, because the Trog boss's command ability is used at the start of the combat phase and only lasts for the combat phase. So even though the reroll ones of hit for attacks is not limited to melee attacks, the only phase where it's operating is the combat phase. So unless you're shooting and vomiting in the combat phase directly, somehow you're not getting the reroll ones on that. Okay. At any rate, continue.
Yeah. The other thing that I want to add about that cauldron is that the cauldron adds, like, yes, it gives the whole lore, but it gives actually two other really unique things. One is that the cauldron lets you extend the range of your vomit.
Yep.
Right. The cauldron gives you a plus to cast, right? Because the hag doesn't normally have a plus to cast, so it gives her it bonuses her casting. It also, and with that bonus to cast, it synergizes with her unbinding ability.
Yep.
Because it increases her unbind. And then on top of all of that, the one penalty to the cauldron is when you cast it, you do a D3 mortal wounds to somebody nearby. You can trigger that on yourself, and you have a pretty good chance of healing that back. And so actually, like, the biggest hindrance of the cauldron, you can negate just by being by virtue of being a troll.
Yeah.
So
the only downside of this unit, and it isn't really a downside of the unit itself, but it doesn't have synergy with the rest of the army. Right? All these pieces are great in isolation, but they're not buffing the other units in the army. Right, so obviously the Trog boss, the Trog hag is great, but she's great anyway. She doesn't have to be in the Troggoth army to make her great.
Right,
she's great to begin with. Putting her in the Troggoth army is just something you can do that has the same keywords.
Yep, she is a great piece to add to another army. And I mean, she's a great piece in a troll army if you need to cast her, but she's like, she can perform that function even, and she has her own kind of function that she brings even in a normal Gloomspite army.
Yeah, I mean, between the neg one to hit and neg one to save, she's sort of like synergizing with the game plan of what a lot of other things in this army are wanting to do anyways, right?
Can we do a shout out real quick to the fact that you can get neg 3 to saves in this army?
Okay.
With the hag, the Shroomancer, and his spell from Gobapalooza, and the Mommet of the little fungoid shaman, not the fungoid shaman, the cave shaman. And so, like, you can throw around neg 3 to save. So you can give basically any goblin unit neg 3 to rend. That's pretty good.
Decent.
That's Beasts of Chaos level.
Sure.
And that's like rending, targeted debuffs. Yeah, that's like targeted debuffs. That's not like broadcasting it. But like you are gonna, all attacks coming into you are gonna rend.
Right.
So it's pretty good.
I'm not sure. One of those pieces that's required there is a bit sketchy, but sure. Because I'm not sure I'm not sure on the old Gobapalooza, but hey, there we are. All right. So let's use that, since she's good at anything. Let's use that to segue to some other stuff. So, Paul, what's the other things that are catching your eye out of this that you want to definitely discuss here as we continue the review? Because there's so much more to talk about.
Are we talking Troggoth or are we talking Spider Fang?
Move on. We'll use this to transition into the rest of the Gitz army. I feel we've given trolls their fair due now.
All right, Tom, it's time to go. All right,
okay,
the war
I'm
party.
In.
All right.
Oh God.
The war party.
Okay. So here we go. It's time for this. This argument started before the show, and I stopped it just so they could have it on the air. Okay.
This argument started like 3 weeks ago when the leaks came in, and Paul's like, "The war party's amazing in the battalion," and I'm like, "Stop it, stop."
It is amazing in the battalion.
Okay,
absolutely amazing.
All right, go.
So if you put it in the battalion, right? It's an extra 100 points. You have to take 2 of them. You can choose to take either the war party or you can choose to take the flinger.
Yep.
Now, the flinger is super nice because the flinger makes the unit that it hits attack last in combat.
Yep.
Problem with the flinger is it's basically a static 4+ if it has at least 10 models.
Yep.
And it's not a shooting attack, so you can't add +1. Right? So it's 4+ if it has 10, 5+ if it has 5 or less, 6+ if it doesn't. Yep. So it's pretty unreliable.
Agreed.
It's super nice because it has D3 mortal wounds. Super nice because it makes them attack last. But you're going to have to take 2 to kind of hope that it's going to be guaranteed on 1. But even then, if you roll poor, it's not great. Right? But it's nice to have it because it has a quite nice range. It's got a 36-inch range. But it's only 1 attack. Now, if you compare that with a war party, right? The war party is the exact same thing. They got spider bows at 16 inches, right? They've got the standard Ragnarok kit. They've got the standard Ragnarok damage table. But they have 10 attacks from the spider bows, 10 attacks from the crooked spears.
Which won't do anything. Neither of those profiles will do anything in combat.
They'll do something.
No, they won't. I play the I like 2 extra attacks with your bow, 2 extra attacks with those spears that are hitting and wounding on 5s.
You mean as opposed to the flinger?
Wait.
Right.
So 33% plus 50%, right? So 33% plus 50%, 16%.
16%.
Right? Statistically, 8 is going to be 1. 10 is going to be more than 1. Right? Statistically, it's going to be more than 1. Even though it's no rend, it's still something.
Even though it will average to 1. Continue.
It will average to 1. But you're right. You're absolutely right. But this game isn't about averages. It's about the statistical independence of each individual event. And 10 rolls is more than 8.
Okay.
Right?
That is mathematically true. Oh, hold on. I've checked the numbers. Yes, 10 is more than 8. Okay, I agree.
Yeah.
So you can re-roll run and charge rolls for this model. That's amazing, right? You can re-roll run and charge. No? In the Light of the Bad Moon, you can re-roll run and charge. That's amazing. And then you can charge 2d6, right?
Can you charge and shoot, or can you run and charge?
You can run and charge in the Light of the Bad Moon, can't you?
Squigs can run and charge in the Light of the Bad Moon.
You have to have the spell in the Lore of the Spider Fang.
There's a spell in Lore of the Spider Fang that you can do that.
Yes. So if you take the 80-point web spinner or the shaman,
which is like the 4th spell down in the spells that you would take for the Spider Fang.
Unless that's what you're building toward.
Unless that's what you're building towards. If you're building towards it, what you would be doing if you're taking the war party and you're taking the battalion, right? On a 2+, when you charge, the enemy unit takes D3 mortal wounds. On a 2+, right? That's so much more reliable than the flinger. And if you've got the battalion, right? You're wounding with the jaws on 2+ rerolling ones.
I mean, I hear that. I hear that. But here's the problem with that.
You have to be within 6 inches of the other model, right? I get
it. 6 inches of what other model? Let's be very clear here. What other model? The other Ragnarok. So you have 2 Ragnaroks that are within 6 inches of each other. So what that means is that all of the points of this battalion are centered on one part of the battlefield.
You're absolutely right.
Okay.
You want an anvil?
And
you want an anvil?
Hold on.
That's your anvil.
No, it's not. It's a 4-up save that you have to go into the Mega Battalion to get the reroll 1s to save to make it a 4-up reroll 1s.
You're not doing the Mega Battalion.
This is
the regular battalion for the Ragnaroks.
No, to get the reroll 1s though to save. To make this into an anvil, you need to be the 4-up reroll 1. Right.
Well,
but just 14 wounds does not make 14 wounds on a 4-up save does not make this an anvil. Let's be very clear here. Boingrot Bounders
wounds on a 4+ save.
Boingrot Bounders for 200 points.
Yes.
That's 20 wounds on a 4-up. That's 20 wounds on a 4-up save. Same army.
You're absolutely right.
And how many mortals are they doing on a charge?
5 on average, given that number you just said.
Not a D3.
Yep.
Okay, and not on a 2+. So hold on, I'm not done. So and on top of this Ragnarok shenanigans, you have to kill 1 spider to negate the battalion.
Yep.
Kill 1 Ragnarok, you've negated the battalion. So now, what is more valuable? This guy at what? He's at 260, right?
250
for the 250 for the battalion.
No, 250 for the war party.
For the 250 for the war party one.
It's 250 for each war party, then it's like 100 something for the battalion.
Right, for the battalion. Right. But the war party is 250, or I can pay 300 and get as effective in combat with a shaman on top that casts 2 spells. I'm going to take the shaman on top every
combat. It's not as effective in combat. 2d3 mortal wounds on impact is more effective in combat. It flat out is.
They have to charge.
Yes,
like they have to charge. I can cast Cauldron on and get an extra D3 mortals in combat every turn instead of having to recharge.
But this is native, Tom. You don't have to add things to make the synergy.
But I'm gonna have a Cauldron in there anyways.
You're absolutely right. But you put that on the Arachnarok with the Shaman, and that becomes another piece that you can take out a small side of the flank, right?
So you're gonna have 3 pie plates on the table?
Oh, absolutely. Why would you not have 3 pie plates on the table? You have 4 of the pie plate units in the army. Why would you not have 3 pie plates?
Yeah, Paul sees the 0 to 4 behemoths limit, and he's like, 4.
Oh, yeah.
That's a thing to be filled up, yeah. That's like, why would you only, when you look at your gas tank, there's 4 quarters to it. You don't fill it up to 3 quarters and stop. You fill your gas tank. You got 4 potential quarters here. They're all filled up.
Spider Fang army, right? And everything in the unit's going to be Spider Fang. I'm not going to be running Moon Clan. I'm not going to be running.
Well, this is a Gloomspite army.
I understand.
And so if we're talking effectiveness, it's not the most effective. Now, if you're talking about like only running Spider Fang, then okay, yes. Like I get it. I'm still going to spend points otherwise, because here's the alternative. Or I just have 4 Arachnaroks with shamans on all 4. And I get 8 spells around at +1. Like,
which is quite possible, right?
And that's
Arachnaroks on Feynman, then you don't get any battalions. So you only get 1 artifact on all those 4
No. I do the battalion with the Spider Riders to give them +2 movement.
300 times 4 is 1,200. Plus you do the battalion, so you've got 100 for 5, 100 for 5, 100 for 5. So you've got 400 there, plus the battalion, which is another 100 something, right? So that's
it is a 120. It is a 120.
And then if you're going to be putting in the Arachna Cauldron, and then if you're going to be putting in the Mushroom, right? You're really squeezing that extra points to be able to get
I understand.
Else.
I understand. I do.
So if I can weigh in here as
a Spider Fang unit with only 5 models in Spider Riders.
So let me weigh in here as the non-spider person in the group. Okay. All right. Here's you've both made excellent arguments as to in the great Flinger versus War Party debate of 2019
or Shaman,
as it will be remembered, right? Ultimately, here's what I'll say. If I were trying to build toward the Spider Fang Stalk Tribe, toward the Mega Battalion,
right.
If we assume that's the goal, that I'm trying to get that on the table,
right.
Which if I am playing an all or basically ass Spider Fang army, right, where that's let's say 90% of my force, right? Maybe I have a little bit of dip into something else to grab some other caster,
right,
or whatever. Then that would seem to be right, because that Mega Battalion is pretty strong, like as has been mentioned, right?
It's okay.
And it contains a huge amount of your stuff. It has a decent-ish ability in that it Mystic Shields your whole army most of the time, right?
Which is great.
And it's not, look, I'm not going to say it's like the greatest thing since sliced bread. That's not what I'm arguing over. I'm saying it one-drops your whole army. But to get it, you certainly now have 2. You're starting with 2 command points and 2 artifacts, right? Because you literally have to have a battalion underneath this. There's no way around.
Right. You have to have 2 battalions.
You have to have 2 battalions underneath it.
So
right. Sorry, 3. You're absolutely right. Yeah. You're starting with 3 command points.
So you're starting with 4 artifacts and 4 traits if you could fit them in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. The Rider Battalion, the War Party Battalion, and the Mega Battalion.
So what you need
and
to
then
do
your base.
Yeah,
you
so
need to look
4 total.
Outside of the Spider Fang abilities, right? You need to look in the realm rules and you see which realms give you the traits, you can't do the traits. Give you the artifacts that allow you to maximize that ability, right?
Sure.
Because you can't do it in Spider Fang because you can't put it on the Arachnaroks. You can put 1 Scuttle Boss, but
sure.
Go ahead.
You've got to have, so you've got to have a Spider Cluster and you've got to have a Skitter Swarm, right? The Skitter Swarm, you had to have anyways because you were going to take Spider Riders. They were going to be your battle line. That was just going to be how this world was, right?
Mm-hmm.
So great. So I have a plethora of artifacts and command points in an army that just like poops command points already.
But no, this army doesn't poop command points.
Yes, the Spider Riders don't.
The Spider Riders don't, and not only do they not, they have no usable command ability. Because let's talk about the Scuttle Boss command ability. Okay,
let's talk about it. All right, fine. Yeah, hold on. Before we get into that, I'm going to say this: I would come down on the War Party side over the Flingers. If I'm taking a spider cluster,
you're out of your damn mind.
I'm taking the War Parties, and I'll tell you why. No, let me tell you why. Here's why I think the War Party's better. You ready? Because I think the Flingers are worthless, and they're 20 points more. I think most of the time the Flinger does.
So you're saying
nothing.
those 40 points are worse than a 75% chance to make somebody.
It's not 75%. It's not 75% BS. That's assuming I've got a 10 wound model or 10 model unit that I want to target. And that's very often going to be the case that it's not. Okay? Like, sure, sometimes when I want to hit a horde. You're right.
Both of these units have to go into the same unit functionally because they're going to be right
I don't
next
care
to each
about
other.
the battalion bonus. I'm writing off the battalion bonus. That's a trap. If it happens, great. I get to reroll ones. Super neat, fun time. Okay? I am saying the battalion makes that I have to take for the Mega Battalion that I'm taking the Spider Army toward requires 2 of these big dumb spiders.
Yes.
Okay? I don't have a choice.
Big dumb spiders. Come on.
Look. And if I'm going to choose 2 of them, I'm going to choose the 2 that I think are actually going to do something. And Paul's right. I'd rather pay less. I'm going to want to shove this spider down somebody's throat.
Yep.
Okay? And so it's not going to sit back and fling, and I'm going to miss with the fling.
No.
And so, like, the Flinger is primed to let you down, to not do what you needed to do when you needed to do it. Whereas I might as well take the cheaper one who cares. Like, yeah, the extra mortal wounds and the impact, great. Sure, that's fine. Neat, fun, happy time adventures. Okay. But the point is that I'd rather just take the cheaper model that I'm going to ram down someone's throat. Is it slightly more effective in melee? I mean, sure, I guess by the absolute mathematics of it, but like, it's probably irrelevantly different.
Right. It is irrelevantly different. Correct.
But I'm still going to take the 40 points is an endless spell in this army.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, I hear that. Okay.
30 points is a Skitter Swarm.
Yeah. And I would rather have the points for that than waste the points on a Flinger that's going to fail.
No, you don't know it's going to fail.
I know it's not going to work when I need it because it is the definition of unfreaking reliable.
Statistically,
that's the problem with it. Okay. Will it work sometimes? Yes, of course. It's a die roll. as long as the number I need to roll isn't an imaginary number. If I need to roll the square root of -1, then I'm out of luck. But as long as I'm rolling a 1 through a 6, yes, it will work sometimes, but it's not going to work when I want it to. And that's my problem. I'd rather.
And I just disagree with, like,
into your spike.
If 2 of these are into something, so like on the numbers, if the unit has 10 models, which is the base unit size for a lot of units, let's be clear here.
For some and not all, there's plenty of elite units in the game that come in 5s and are often played in 5s, or will get attrition down in the game to less than 10.
Okay,
or three like eels, right?
Or like eel units that I want to strike last, or evocator units that I want to strike last that might not have 10 guys left because one evocator got picked off, and suddenly my statistical chance to pull it off drops like a rock,
right?
Like a flung rock wrapped around with webs.
Right, so now you're at a 50% hit chance if they have 5 to 9 models,
and I'd rather
because you're at a third and a third, 2 5+.
I would rather have the Skitter Strand. That's it. Bottom line. Like at that point, Skitter Swarm, not Strand. I'd rather have a Skitter Swarm at that point. All right.
You're saying the hunting party.
Yeah, the war party. Yes, I'd rather have the war party. At any rate, and my point is, I'd rather have at that point in the game, I'd rather have those extra points put into like the Scuttle Tide, whatever the endless spell is, the cheap endless spell drove in.
1 in 4 times you do 2d3 mortal wounds every shooting phase against those units.
Woo!
Yeah, but 5 out of 6
1 in 4
you do 2d3 with the war party. 5 out of 6.
No, but you're only going to use that once or twice for the entire game, where you can use the shooting attack every turn.
So it works
you're not
out the
retreating
same.
in charge.
You just said mathematically it means works out the same.
No. Because
yeah, it's the same.
If your Ragnaroks are not in combat, you're doing it wrong.
I agree with that. All right, let's move on.
Oh my gosh.
Leave it. Leave it. Let's talk about command abilities, because that is an interesting discussion. We should talk about the command abilities of this army.
How they are the worst for Spider Fang.
Right?
Okay.
Spider. Because what's the one command ability we get?
You get one. Somebody walk us through it. This will be an interesting point to talk about the other FAQ. So
this
Paul,
is the worst. Go ahead, Paul.
So you can reroll hits on spears.
No.
Right?
No.
No, it is that. It is that and. So let's just give the exact ability. My God. Write them all down. Okay. You can use this command ability at the start of your charge phase. If you do so, pick one friendly Spider Fang Grot unit wholly within 18 inches of a now friendly model with this command ability. That was the change, by the way. If you look at the FAQ, this was the change. They added the word friendly in front of model with this command ability because, as Tom pointed out, he's the one who noticed it. Full credit to Tom. You could have, like, in the mirror match, you could have activated this and then picked their model to
trigger a nearby unit of yours near their model.
Right, which is funny. But no longer, because now it says friendly. You can re-roll charge rolls for that unit in the charge phase. In addition, you can re-roll hit rolls for attacks made with that unit's crooked spears in the following combat.
It's so terrible. Okay, let's talk about how bad this is. So this ability, let me get this straight.
Yes.
You choose one unit, and that one unit can re-roll charges. And re-roll crooked spear attacks, which means that the worst profile on any of the units, like, so let's be clear, it doesn't. Let's just ignore the first part about re-rolling charges, okay?
Sure.
Because you're going to be running 10 inches anyway on your Spider Riders and on your boss. Spider Riders 12, right? If you put them in the battalion.
So when do you trigger this ability?
At the start of the charge phase.
Okay. At the start of the charge phase, you choose one unit to re-roll charges for that phase. Or you can just roll all your charges, and if you fail any of them, spend a command point and re-roll the failed charge.
Sure.
Does that make sense? So, like,
I understand.
It's patently worse than the default re-roll charges ability.
Yes.
Okay.
Because you're making the reroll charge decision after you've already failed. You're not pre-assigning the discussion.
Right. So you're not pre-assigning it. So the only thing that actually does anything in this ability is the reroll crooked spear rolls. That doesn't actually affect the Scuttle boss at all. He can't buff himself with it.
Because he doesn't have a crooked spear.
He can either buff a Spider Rider, which that means that of the 5 riders, you'll get 5 re-rolled attacks that normally hit on 5 pluses. Wound on 4 pluses, and no Ren do 1 damage, so functionally worthless. Or you can re-roll the 8 or 10 crooked spear attacks on your Arachnarok Spider that are also functionally worthless. Got it.
Well,
okay.
But the Arachnarok Spider with the War Party, 10, 5 plus, re-rolling.
Still worthless.
It's still more that ups the statistical for sure, right? If you roll 5 pluses,
you are going to get more hits. You may not get more wounds statistically. That's the ironic part of it,
right? I mean,
it's 5s and 4s.
I think we can
as much as you're going to do with the Spider Rider unit. That's at 5, right? If you're doing a Spider Rider unit of 10. That's fine, but you're not going to get them all in combat.
Are you already re-rolling 1s to hit for being in your stupid battalion if you're taking that dumb Arachnarok as well?
That's right.
So it's even more redundant. That's what I'm talking about. It's so bad.
Still 50% of the hits, isn't it?
You know what this ability used to be?
But you're right.
For my audience.
It is bad.
Okay, Paul, you know what this used to be. Audience, you know what this ability used to be?
Shields.
No.
Well, we used to have reroll shields.
No, we had a default reroll shield. Like, always reroll all failed save on the Scuttle.
4+ rerollable, which was amazing.
Right. That's what it used to be. That's not what I'm talking about. His old command ability.
The double.
Right. Yep. His old command ability let you mortal on 5+.
Yes, which we get from the moon now.
Which was amazing, and it was an 8-inch bubble that just broadcast. Now that ability has been moved off of him onto the moon, which is super unreliable. If you have not played this army, never depend upon the moon because it will never perform. Ever. It won't.
The moon makes the flinger look reliable.
You're right.
Yes. The moon makes the flinger look reliable. So you can't depend upon the moon, and so you now have to take an item to give the 5+ bubble that his command ability used to do.
Yes.
And so what ends up happening?
You're going to have the item anyway.
Right, you will. Yeah, you will certainly have the item anyways. My frustration is that there's no functional, usable command ability in the army, like for spiders.
Now, hold on. Let me ask you a question here.
But I'm 3 command abilities you get to begin with, right?
Yeah, let me hold on. I want to throw a straw man at Tom real quick, just for fun. Okay.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, Tom. How many functional command abilities are actually in Daughters of Cain?
None.
I agree. It's basically 0. Like people who, if you've played Daughters, you know that in most games you just have 0. You often have 0 command abilities you can actually use. That is to say, like printed on your war scroll. Just because the nature of the way things work out. Of like how your weird overlap of what's general and what needed to be this all works. Everybody's got to be the general, but no one you want to be the general is the general. It's just, you don't have
and you murder yourself out of combat. So it doesn't matter because I'm never in combat in my hero phase.
Correct. Like even if you did have a chance to activate it, if the witches didn't like kill themselves out of combat during your hero phase, by the time it comes back around to your hero phase, something has gone horribly off the rails, right?
Right. So you never get to use that command ability. So, but you can at least use those command points to run and charge in Daughters. You don't even have that in this army.
You do on the spell. It's not. Let's not say that they do have 0.
You're
not
right.
disagreeing.
The command ability is not like the command ability is useless in this army because the command abilities you get in the basic rules are better, right?
Yes.
But that doesn't mean that you don't have the command abilities that are in the main rulebook, right?
Absolutely. As well as your realm command abilities. Like starting in that mega battalion with 4 command points. It's not like that's a bad thing.
No.
To be able to like
and you're certainly right, because let me tell you, Realm of Light with spiders is terrifying as all get out.
Yeah.
Where you're gonna just point dump and alpha strike, another enemy off the table.
Yeah. And so like having good access to realm command abilities like that's true. It takes a spell to run and charge, but you do have a pretty as you pointed out, the web spinner is a pretty great caster on the Arachnarok, right? And like this is an army of dudes that all their casters can very easily run around at like +1+. Right? Like it's not, that's pretty
easily
baseline.
+1.
Yeah. +1.
But
+1+.
All wizards are normally +1. And then if they're under moon, they're going to gain 1. If they have the cauldron out, they're going to gain 1.
Right. Yeah. Like having wizards in this spider army suddenly shoot up to like +3 to cast is not a weird thing. And like you've got a pretty decent access to double casters. So like getting the run and charge spell isn't that hard. Your base footcaster who can still get +1 just for hanging out near the big papa spider, right? And still then benefit from like the moon and all that stuff. Like my point is your caster's pretty cheap. Your casters are all pretty solid. They all have pretty decent bonus. And once you have an ability to throw that run and charge around, the reality is making your dumb spider riders with a bravery of -7 or whatever their bravery is, right? Like you kill one. I'm pretty sure the rule with the bravery on spider riders is that if one dies in the battle shop phase,
D6 to leave.
I'm pretty sure the rule is you roll a die, and whatever you roll is how many of your spiders you have to take a hammer to. Because not only do they run, you're never allowed to use them again. It's like it's automatic Iron Man. Their bravery's so low.
Pretty much. Let's not forget though, like the Web Spirit Shaman, his spell is 4. Right? You don't even need to have a +1 on it. It's a 4.
Yeah.
And it's 24 inches for the range.
Yeah.
Right? That's pretty amazing. Like when I was talking to Tom earlier, I was like, this guy's just going to be left behind. Who cares?
Right.
It's a 24-inch range, and it casts on a 4.
I would love him if he also had the run and charge, but he only has run and shoot, right? You've got to reach into the lore to get the run and charge.
Yeah. And the problem with the lore is that, like, I want to get the D6 heal on the Arachnarok. I want to get the -1 to hit, and I also want to get the like on 6s mortal wound for every model in the unit on 6s. So like, there's a lot of really good spells in the Spider Fang lore.
The embarrassment of riches. Oh no, you know, like
right.
like okay,
yeah.
I have too many good spells that do too many things I want to do.
It's true.
And too many automatically buffed casters to cast them at relatively economic prices. Woe is me.
Which is why not having a command trait is like, oh well, right?
Right.
You got everything else it's supposed to have. If you look at and looking at it from a battle tome, right? You're looking at it from a battle tome situation, you say, well, this isn't as good as other battle tomes. But I don't look at it from that situation, because you know what I look at it from? I look at it from what we had. And from what we had, like, this is so much amazing.
Yeah.
And what we had,
it's certainly true.
I mean,
yes,
not trying to humble brag here, but like, I took third in the 1,000-point list with 2 Arachnaroks with what we had. Then you give me realm spells, you give me, you give me all this realm artifacts and the own artifacts, like, it was already good to begin with.
Yeah.
Right? Except they they took away our rerollable save, which would have made the Scuttle Boss the most anvil-y unit in the army.
Sure.
With what he was.
Right. Like, that was absolutely amazing. And I would just sit there and laugh at people trying to kill the Scuttle Boss because it was great.
In terrain, he was a 3-up rerollable.
But they gave him artifacts, right?
Yeah.
They gave him things to make him interesting. And honestly, that's where I see some really interesting lists in this army if you stick with Spider Fang. Because, for example, if you're
our Captain Smash build type of thing where he's running out there and just exploding people.
Exactly. Like you go with Shyish, so put the Banshee blade on him, right? And you can put another one in the Ethereal Amulet, especially if you're going to the Mega Battalion. You've got a lot of options of super, super fun things to be able to do with this guy.
Yeah, I mean, what I would say is that, like, so I ran, like, I joked around about my son beating me today.
Yep.
Or, like, this weekend. I made him a really hard as nails, like, Stormcast, like, Sequitur heavy evocator list. Yep. And I took my spider list against it. And on one hand, like, one unit of 5 evocators just, like, cleared out, like, my boss and spiders and everything in one go. Like, one combat, boom, everything blew up. At the same time, I laughed at his 10 Sequiturs. Like, I just rolled through 10 Sequiturs without even, like, blinking, because the 4 mortal wounds of 5+ big boss came rolling through and was just like, nah, kill all the Sequiturs. So, I mean, there are some amazing tools in the army. But I think what we're going to find ultimately is, as much as I hate to say this, the power in Gloomspite is not going to be in any of these siloed forces. I think what we're going to find is that, like, the best spider lists are going to have a contingent of spiders mixed in with other things, mixed in with a little bit of trolls, mixed in with a bunch of foot goblins.
But that's cheating.
Yeah. No, it's not. No, it's a single army.
You're absolutely right. But to me, that's cheating, right? I'm just going to run Spider Fang because that's what I love and that's what I want, right?
Which is fair.
And absolutely right.
Sorry, I'm not a racial purist.
Oh geez. Oh geez.
Why not? Right?
I mean, we're gonna move past that very quickly. So the I mean, arguably this is where I think it's at with the Mega Battalion and the individual battalions. My argument would be with your sort of Captain Smash build, which we talked about on the last show, of the Scuttle Boss with the regular unit's ability to do, like, a lot of damage, as you mentioned. Like, regular Spider Riders can absolutely be a very scary, damaging unit. The Arachnaroks are all good. These guys have powerful magic. They got pretty decent mobility and mobility options. What they lack, really, in my mind, and Tom and I have talked about this, is an anvil. Like, there's nothing in the Spider Force alone that's a true anvil that will sit there and, like, can just hold a point and take an absolute beating, right? Like, everything in this army can get healed, like, pretty fast.
Your best bet, like, honestly, if you want to go spiders, your best bet is to have an Arachnarok Shaman running a Griff Feather Charm.
Yep.
And running the the one spell, the
Mirror Pool or Realm Blood?
No, the
neg one to hit.
The neg one to hit. I'm blanking on the spell. the scuttling. I'm sorry. The sneaky distraction. Right. The 12-inch bubble of -1 to hit. And so, the Ragnarok then is sitting at -2 to hit in both ranged and melee if he can get the range within 12 inches. So if he can get in on the unit, like, he's actually at -2 to be hit. The Ragnarok. And so that suddenly, like, 4-up save, -2 to hit, and then potentially a D6 healing. Like, if you have a shaman in the back healing him, like that, you know, and you can get him on a reroll 1 save. Like, a shaman can actually be your tankiest spider unit. That said, I don't think he's still not an anvil. Like, that does not make an anvil.
But two make a pretty good anvil.
But you can't get all those buffs. Like, you can't get all those toys on 2. That's the problem.
But you get double the wounds. I mean,
you do. I think you have to dip outside. Like, and what I like, honestly, I think that you have to dip into other units in order to get things that are going to hold objectives.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like, I mean, in an objective game, you don't necessarily have the models, especially if you're going to run the Mega Battalion. You genuinely don't have the models to hold objectives, right? It's just not going to happen.
But I'm not sure that the right build of this isn't like you basically build your spiders to 1500-ish points, and then have like a 9 block of trolls, or some or some big pack of goblins with a goblin hero or whatever, something like that. Yeah. Go ahead.
And I just wonder if I lost my train of thought. Sorry.
That's okay. So let's wrap up spiders, because I want to move on and talk about some other builds here and some other items here.
Yeah.
My argument would be a pure spider army is more, when we think about it, as like, what if if I'm the spider person, if I'm Paul, if I'm living that Paul lifestyle where I'm repping the spiders, I do believe this is more competitive than like the old troll force we talked about at the beginning. Got more tools, more ability to plow through things, to be more mobile, which, like, let's face it, AOS often comes down to mobility. Like, mobility can win games. We just talked about how, like, at the start of the show or middle of the show or somewhere in there, we talked about how, like, a power move that a player did in CanCon was charging and then on activation immediately retreating and never fighting, right? Like, not even attacking was the power move. It was a pure mobility play, right? I would point out that what made the Khorne player arguably win so much was controlling movement and burning blood tide like crazy just to move in the hero phase, right? To like get his units around wherever he needed. So, like, being mobile and having a lot of movement options is good. This is a pretty mobile army. It's an army that can, like, frequently ignore terrain, which is solid, all that kind of stuff, right? But it's not as competitive as, being in, I think, probably a mixed list, leaning on probably, like, the meat of the goblins, which I think are the strong center of this.
But I'm also a firm believer in, you don't want it to be the best list in the Battletome. You want it to be a suboptimal list in the Battletome, because people then don't know how to play against it, right?
Sure.
Nobody's going to have a spider army sitting around at home. And so you'll be able to surprise some people, right? But you'll be able to play with it well against other people, because everything makes sense and everything works together, right? Like, when you start doing the Battletome armies, you're going to have more practice to be able to understand, well, what does this Moon Clan unit do with this Troggoth unit and this Spider Fang unit? How do they all mesh together? How do I use this one this way, this one this way, and this one this way?
Right.
Right? When you're using Spider Fang, they all do the same thing. They all do it slightly different way and for a slightly different purpose. And I think it's a little bit easier to be able to master that. And like I said, you can surprise people with it, which is a lot of fun.
The other thing I would say is that that's kind of my closing thought, is that for those that want to play spiders, my warning to you is that they are exceedingly fragile.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I don't think that people, like, you about have to have, and this is my last ploy, by the way, for the flingers. You about have to have, you do. Hold on, wait. You about have to make the enemy strike last if you want units of spiders to survive. Because they simply will not survive any other way other than forcing the enemy to strike last.
But if you have the prime, they're immune to battle shock within 12 inches.
It doesn't matter. So they will eat through. Like, a unit of 5 is 10 wounds on a 5+ save. That's it.
Yeah, but I don't think you should run units of 5. I think you should run units of 10. right?
Sure.
So in my mind,
units of 10, that's 20 wounds on a 5+ save. You know what also has a 5+ save? Arcanaut Company. And I like, if you've ever seen how quickly a block of Arcanaut Company gets peeled, that's what spiders are, and they are almost a melee only unit. And so my advice,
movement 5, they've got movement 10 +2 for being in the battalion, so movement 12.
But you have to kill things. You have to kill things, and if you're only spiders, like Arachnaroks can't do all of your work, and that's the problem.
But because what can do some decent work too, and I'd rather lose scuttle bosses than heroes than riders.
Right, but what I'm saying is you're going to push things into combat, and you're going to have multiple things in combat, and if they turn and look at your packs of spiders, they will obliterate a pack of spiders off the table.
Yes,
I mean, they will die very, very quickly, and that's my warning to you. You know, like as people are like thinking about spider armies, is that like the packs of spider riders like explode exceedingly quickly. So like you need to think about what you're going to do because they do not stay on the table long.
I would say I see potentially 3 lists coming out of this, right? So you've got the mega battalion list, right? Which has 3 Arachnaroks in it. Right? You've got the mega battalion list, but you don't take any of the battalions. So you do the 3 Arachnaroks, you just pump up the spider riders, right? And you do a lot of 100-point heroes and do different things with them and see what you can do with those, right?
You're saying effectively you build the mega battalion without actually using those battalions.
Exactly, because it's still an effective list without the mega battalion, right?
Sure.
It adds some small buffs.
Right.
And then the 4th thing you do is you run 4 Arachnaroks, and then you fill it in with your battle line and your general, right? I mean, like, that's basically the 3 lists that I can see.
I like what I would push back is the one that I see is you run the Spider Rider Battalion that gives +2 move. It's fairly cheap. It's all your battle line. It's everything you're going to have already, which is a boss and a bunch of battle line.
Yeah.
And then it's that plus as many Arachnaroks as you want to fit in the list.
Yeah. But you can fit 4 in for that. Yeah. So
yeah.
Yep.
So and then you get an extra artifact and Yep.
All right. So we talked a lot about squig armies last time. I want to dig more into our good old fashioned gobos.
Yep.
So let's get into it.
We didn't talk about Grotapalooza at all.
Well, I don't know that we missed out on Gobapalooza at all. I don't like it.
I have come around to it.
Okay. Defend it. Because I don't like it. I certainly don't like. Yeah, right now. Okay, go for it. You're gonna defend. Let's talk Gobapalooza.
So I think it's a mistake running Gobapalooza without the battalion. So in order to run it, I think you have to buy the battalion.
Okay.
So what you're getting for the battalion is a 350-point wizard.
Sure. Okay.
That casts 2 spells per round at +1.
Okay.
Okay. So the default when I'm going in, like the psychology is for 350 points, you're getting 2 wizards that cast at +1 that don't get lore spells but can cast realm spells and can cast endless spells.
Okay.
Okay. That are at +1 to cast each. And they have short range spells. And so you need to they're going to be in the mix somewhere, or you're going to be using them for endless spells. Okay. One of those is the -1 to hit, -1 to armor debuff that the Hag has. Okay. The other one is a strike's last debuff. So you can actually use that debuff and Itchy Nuisance to make 2 units strike last in combat. Enemy units.
Okay.
So those are 2 solid spells, and both at off +1 casters. +2 obviously under the light of the bad moon. And by the way, one of those can summon if you want the Cauldron, and when you summon the Cauldron, they can get him to +2 to cast and give him the entire lore if you wanted him to have a lore spell as well. So the question is that having a +2 or +1 caster, 2 spells per round, that's not bad for 350 points. Not just that, with the fact that you're getting the Hag spell. The Hag's 180 or 380 on that's more difficult, or that's you get the idea. That's 380, only 1 spell instead of 2, no bonus to cast. She's more survivable. but I'll get there. And you're also getting an item and a command point for the Gobopalooza. Okay, that's just with the 2 casters. Now, the only thing that makes it worth it is if you can actually leverage the 2 buffing units. So, like, I'm not going to throw like the Gobopalooza in the middle of a Spider Fang army because I can get those 2 spells at +1 for cheaper. Does that make sense? Okay. And so, if you can use it in the right list with like a 60 pack of goblins, or like the 1 rerolls to wound, also work on shooting attacks, right? And so you need to have a hero to receive the buffs, and you need to have a grot unit to receive the buffs. A grot hero and a normal grot unit. And so what I would say is this. Most people, it's going to be easy to find a unit to target with the +1 or the reroll 1s to wound. Okay. Because they'll have like a grot block, stab a block, or a shoot a block. That's not going to be a problem. Normally, it's finding a grot hero to do the work for reroll all hits. Because like you're not going to be shoving grot heroes into combat, and the grot heroes you would be shoving into combat don't have the grot keyword. Because the Mangler Squigs and none of those other Squig riders actually have the keyword that you need it to have.
Right. We're talking about like a loon boss is who's getting it. Is who's like a potential person to receive this. Like literally like the loon boss on foot would count or whatever. Yeah. Right.
So do you know what makes this worth it to me? Like what the right pairing is?
I'm super ready because you have not sold me yet. I'm just building up like negatives and counterpoints to your thing so far. So
sure.
Go ahead.
The Loon King. The Loon King is actually the right answer to pair with the Gobopalooza.
Okay.
Because what the Loon King actually ends up allowing is the Loon King has 6 shots with his stick on a moon at 28 inches.
The moon on a stick, yeah.
The moon on the stick at 28 inches, which he can. I'm never gonna get tired of this. He can summon the cauldron and push that out past 30 inches. His shooting attack off the line. And what he can now do is he can use both of the buffers to give those 6 attacks the reroll all hits. So he's 3s reroll all hits, 3s reroll 1s to wound. Because he has all the keywords for both the Gobopalooza buffs. And now he can spread those attacks out across multiple targets and get the mortal wounds rolling. The mortal wounds that tick on the end of it. So he can basically get the mortal wounds ticking on all the low wound heroes right out of the gate.
Okay.
From the top of 1. And arguably continue to leverage those 6 attacks at 30 plus inches every turn that are going to reliably land at -1 rend. And then you have the dumb scaremonger who's going to intercept a charge. That's what that guy's going to do.
Who's going to intercept a charge?
Yeah, he's going to go run out and go booga 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 and die, and that's okay.
Okay.
And for 350 points, it actually gives you a battalion that's not wasted points in the stupid goblin army. Because the problem is actually in the mixed grot army, like the Stabbas and all that, there's no good battalions because you end up having a bunch of taxes with the normal skulk mob. That's the problem. And so this gives you an actual battalion that you can run with them to get the extra command point, to get the extra item without having to run the tax of all the extra loon smashes. That's my argument.
All right, so that's fine. I'll see if it. So here would be counterpoint.
Yeah.
There's no way in any universe these 5 morons are with their 6-up save. Okay, and I understand it's a 4-up on round 1. There's one of them that's a 3-up. The most worthless one is the hardest one to kill. Yay. It's 4-up in round 1 and 5-up in round 2. They can have their lookout sir all they want. These 3 and 4 wound idiots with their and yes, I agree with you. You have to take the battalion because without the battalion, these dudes do nothing.
Yeah.
Anybody who's ever prayed on 3s and knows how often you fail those things when you need them knows that a 66% chance is
not enough.
Not enough. That means take a 5-turn game, right? 3 out of, assuming they lived the whole time, 3 out of the 5 turns, assuming you had a valid target every turn, 3 out of the 5 turns they're successful. That's the numbers, right?
Right.
2 turns they fail. So you have to have the battalion because it adds the 1 to the know what's it roll, right? It makes it a 2-up, which it'll still fail, but that is a significant difference in output. 4 out of 5 is much better than 3 out of 5. My problem is like all of these dudes just get incidentally killed. And in a world where like shooting is coming back, where like mortal wound splatter is pretty common, plenty of these dudes are 3 wounds. The Boggle Eye, the guy you love with what I would argue is the only semi-decent spell, and I'll talk about why I think it's only semi-decent in a moment.
Sure.
This is a 3-wound moron that can just be accidentally killed straight up by there's no trading with some people, right? Or you know what I mean? Any effect like that.
He would have to be shot first in order to even trigger that ability. But
how about like any of the 7 D3 Nurgle wound splashes? How about that?
Are you justifying survivability of this guy by choosing the worst
trait
in the book?
I'm saying that like if that thing can incidentally kill him, like how about the 7 ways Nurgle can accidentally generate D3 mortal wounds getting splashed around anywhere on the table? How about those?
I've got a hot take here. Right?
All right, hold on, I'm not done. And this guy's spell is only semi-useful because, like, yes, he can make an enemy unit fight last. An enemy unit that has to be wholly within 12 of him.
Yeah.
Okay? Yeah, enemy units are frequently daisy-chained, often. And, like, to get something wholly within 12, he often is literally going to have to walk into combat. Like, that's the range
he's going to be buried in a block of like 60 grots.
Great. I hope he's like the second grot in the line and they can all get up into combat, and I hope he can make that happen. And then somebody doesn't just incidentally shoot him or mortal wound him to death with like a random arcane bolt that rolls a 10 and kills him. Okay? Like, this... these
3.
And sure. Like, I'm purposely picking weak crap. There's so many other better ways.
And you know what? If people want to target those guys, awesome.
You know what? I will happily, because I'm knocking out, because you just invested a massive amount of your army. 350 points. That's not nothing.
In 5 units.
In 5 little pudwhackers. They're not units. I understand they are.
Not heroes that can't take objectives, right?
Right.
Yeah, they can. They can go sit on an objective. They're each wizards.
They can take a wizard. The two wizards.
Or the other guys can go sit on a point.
Go take wizard stuff. Yes, I don't disagree with that. Okay, but like Chaff will instantly kill these guys if he gets a hold of them.
Oh, totally.
Like Ten Ungor will plow over these guys if they get a hold of them. Like, fear those little monsters. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. I don't refute that at all. Like, but you need to understand. Like, go make some lists. Like, go make some lists for the grots, like the mixed grots. Your battalion's not going to be found because, like, what you want to spend your points in. The problem is that like they made it. They're like there's a tax to the stupid like 3 units plus 3 units of like fanatics. That like you just don't want to spend your points that way.
I argue that I would always much more happily take the 3 unit, like a 40 or a 60 Stabbas and a 20 shooter and 3 Loon Smasher Fanatics. I'll take that any day of the week over these morons. Okay. And the reality is, 2.5 Loon Smasher Fanatics units is what I get out of this in lieu of these 5 guys. Right. Okay. And
in lieu of your buffs that you could like put rerolls on your 60 grot unit, or you like because you can put these buffs on other units.
Those 60 grots wholly within the Sentries. Like, I understand you're saying, I'm just going to burrow him in the middle of this one unit. Okay, fine. That's totally fair. That's where that dude lives. And, like, that's his thing.
Or you teleport him somewhere else, because you can do that in this army.
Yeah, great. You get 1 teleport a turn, man. 1.
Yep.
And there's going to be a lot of things I want to teleport long before this dopey moron.
Sure.
Well, 1 teleport if you're using only... If you use Realm spells, right, you can get a 2 teleports in there.
Yep, you can get 3 technically if you're in Realm of Shadow.
Sure, if you happen to be in a realm like that. In the comments, Doom has your back. That Gobapalooza is good. I disagree, but I'll be happy to be proven wrong here, but I don't see it. These guys just seem like they're betting way too much on way too little.
But here's the deal: I've built the lists, and if you want a second artifact, and you don't want to go with the tax of the I don't like the Skulk Mob for the cost of what it's doing, because I'd rather get. I mean, and that's not. We can talk about that, but yeah.
If you don't like the tax, then just take it a Ragnarok and then take the Battle Riders and do 3 units of Battle Line.
There you go.
Like, if you don't like that tax, you get the mobility and you get the extra hero and you get the caster that's best in the army. I mean, like, if you don't like that, then just take the spiders.
So, yeah. Okay. Here's what I would argue. I like the Fanatics a lot more after somebody pointed out I'm going to call it the side of the side of the paper bag formation. Okay. Which is like the problem with Fanatics is that we pointed out is that if your enemy marches up to within 3 inches of you, right, you can't pop them in front, right?
Right.
And so I saw somebody talk about the side of the paper bag formation, which is like I'll draw it real quick so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay. So basically your unit of goblins.
High production value here, folks.
This is the high production value we bring. This is the side of your paper bag, right? Like this picture, this is your handle, right? So there's just a gap right here in the front.
Yes, that you're going to pop them into the middle of the,
Yes, and they'll, like, when somebody comes into the front, then these guys actually swing first from the second rank, right? Because they can, an inch over 25 mil bases, you can leave this gap and they can fit and hit the front line. So, like, that way they can always engage up front if they need to. But my argument would be that 420 points I'm spending in Loon Smashes, the deterrent that it provides.
In 3 units of 5... Okay, that are going to all have to be in different units. And so, like, all of those get spread out amongst the other units. And, like, I just... that's a huge tax. Because now, like, you can fit almost nothing else in after you get the battalion and all of your battle line. You have no heroes yet.
Sure.
And you're not killing... What are you killing with that? You have a bunch of goblins hitting on 5s.
I'm not worried about the goblins' ability to be murdery. I'm pretty sure that you can turn goblins into absolute murder machines in this army.
But with enough points, and that's my problem, is that you have to buy a bunch of heroes in order to do that. And I don't know that you have the points to do that.
I don't, like, what we've talked about is just the baseline investment of the army. I've paid my battle line. I have hard-hitting stuff. Heroes are cheap.
You're over 1,000 points you're over 1,000 points already. And that's like 5 men, or that's like 3 men... 3 men Loon Smashes, 2 men Shooter units, and a max Goblin
and a
unit.
60
and you're over, and you're over, you're way over, like you're at, like,
and that's a solid backbone to the army would be my argument.
I don't agree,
because from there I can get into things like Bounders and stuff like that. These are solid infantry / shooter blocks to hold where I need to hold, to be where I need to be. And it's a deterrent to get into my shooters and just kill them, knowing that, like, they're going to suffer significant casualties if they come into my unit. That's what I would say.
Yeah, and as people say in the comments, why do you need battalions? You need battalions for artifacts. That's why. Because let me just say, there are lots of really good artifacts in this army.
They did a great job of making, like, interesting artifacts, not even counting, not even going into the realms, which obviously always has potential.
Like, I love the Mommet. I love that's the Neg 1 saves. What was the other one that I just had off the top of my head? I love the Prodder. I think, like, Vince, you talked about the secret tech of the Prodder.
The Prodder shooting, right, of all the units,
Let me point out that doesn't work with any of the Fanatic units.
Right. It has to be because which I realized later, because it has to be the Grot units. Yes.
Right. Yeah. Right. And so, like, you basically, like, the secret, like, tech for that, by the way, is actually the Snuffler units. The Snufflers are your secret tech for the Prodder. They're 70 points.
Hold on. I want to argue against myself.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Hold on. Target against everybody else. Why not yourself?
Because you're saying because it's 20 models for most Grot units to fit in within 12 inches.
No. Okay. All of the Gobapalooza has the Grot keyword, right?
Yes, but it has to be units of 5 or more. Nice try. I already know. Like, yes. The Prodder,
it's with it 5 or more. Okay. Cool.
I already went there. I already went there for Gobblepalooza. Like, it was the first thing I went to.
All right, good.
For
then
the
I stand behind it. Gobblepalooza is terrible. The one thing they could have done well.
You know what? You know what it does work for though?
What's that?
Spider Riders.
Oh,
Spider
really?
Riders are like 5 model Grot units for 100 points.
Yep.
And you could do the Prodder
they
with.
do have the Grot keyword. They're just not MoonClan. It doesn't care about MoonClan. Yeah.
But the Prodder doesn't need MoonClan. It just has to be carried by a MoonClan hero. So, but that said,
as usual, one of the first things we said in the first review show was this army book is like keyword bingo. By the way, it was hilarious to me that if you go read the designer commentary, there's like 2 questions related to like, this thing doesn't have this keyword. Was that intentional? And they're like, yes, it was intentional.
Yes.
Like they were so careful with the keywords in this.
They were. I mean, what I would say is this, because again, Grotapalooza was my first go-to of like, could I make a little hero pack with like 10 Grots with heroes and Gobblepalooza and then just fire off these like 10 dice zapping laser beams. But no, the answer is doing like five Snuffler units or something like that as your like Snufflers with your screens and like because they're a 12 wound screen for 70 points because you get 6 Snufflers, not 5.
Yep.
Like the book was wrong. Yep. You get 6 Snufflers for 70 points, which is
also in the FAQ. So there you go.
Right, in FAQ. Which what that means is that like they're great screens for 70 points, and if you can start them all near and like reliably get some big zaps pretty quickly off the gate.
Well, and I would argue the sneaky Snufflers are like certainly going to be a pretty critical piece to the attack potential of a lot of your army too, right? Because they do buff all MoonClan stuff by adding the extra attack. They're one of the ways you can like turn regular Stabbas into murder machines, right? When you suddenly start ratcheting their attacks up. Because like you won't hesitate to push that button twice on a 60 unit. Like I'll take the 2d6 mortal.
2d6 mortals, done.
Yeah, I'll take that off the back of them to just like ram all those goblins up to 3 attacks, especially if they've got a loon boss buff on them, right? Where all of a sudden,
have 4 attacks.
Just
you're saying immortals. Yeah, they're
more mortals, right? I mean, with any kind of thing like what the loon boss does, which the now stab them good, right? What you're fishing for there is just fist 6s, right? You're just fishing,
right?
And so like it's an unmodified wound roll. So just you want to generate as many hits, so you can generate as many wounds, so you can generate as many 6s. Like that's what you're aiming at, right? So sure.
They wisely made the reroll hits buff on the Gobblepalooza to be heroes only, so that you couldn't get these huge Grot blocks reroll or Grot blocks these reroll hits.
See, my argument against the Gobblepalooza was just that it's a one-trick pony, right? Once you pull your trick,
it's 5 tricks actually.
Yeah, but they're going to kill them, right? It's still a one-trick pony. Because you're going to do the thing, and then they're going to kill the thing, and then you're not going to have the thing.
If they're targeting that instead of Scragrot, I'm okay with that. I am.
So my point is just that, I mean, why would
and my point is often with these, hold on, Paul, often with these splash abilities I'm talking about, it's not that kind of choice. Like, yes, there's probably a limit to the number, but a lot of these are like 3 units, all take this thing. Yeah. Or D3 units, all take these D3 wounds or something like
Comet,
that.
Right?
Yeah. Or Comet. Great example. Like, boom, shake, shake, shake the room. Bloodthirster of Insensate Rage. Yeah. God D3. Forbid any of those morons be standing around. Okay? Because he is just going to like, whoa, rip. Yeah. And they are just dead.
Pop.
Like there's just so many things that will I didn't make a choice. There was no opportunity cost. These dudes it's gonna look like the flashback or the flash forward nightmare scene in Terminator 2. Okay. Just little goblins on a fence. At any rate, go ahead, Paul. I'm sorry.
So if you're gonna be doing a one-trick pony, why wouldn't you just use Zarbag? And instead of making the enemy unit attack last, make them run away and just destroy the one unit we want to kill.
Yeah, Zarbag is an interesting. So do you want to talk about Zarbag real quick? And because I don't know that we've really dove into Zarbag yet. Our our other Night Vault entry here. Yes.
So you got to be super close, right? You got to be within 3 inches of the caster. You got to pick an enemy unit. So you've basically got to be in combat, right? But it's a casting value of 5, right? If the unit must make a normal move, they must retreat, right? If they can't, they take D6 mortal wounds. So if they can make a normal move and retreat, you can eliminate one of the key pieces of synergy from an opponent's army, right? That's better than
it just pulls them out. No, it pulls them out of combat, but I still want to hit them.
Well, but if you can hit one unit and destroy that unit, and then hit that other unit and destroy the second,
that's not how that's going to work. Because what's going to happen is, like, let's say that I'm fighting like a Star Drake and 10 evocators.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, that's awesome. I make the Star Drake run away, but guess what? I'm going to swing with one of my units of spiders, and then the evocators are going to kill everything else around them.
See the thing. Now you're assuming that you're not using it to nuisance, right? So you can make one unit attack last, and you can make one unit run away. And then you can concentrate all your attacks on one unit instead of 2. You don't even need to have the second unit attack last, because the second unit's already gone. Right? And it's a 5+. Like, I mean, you have to get in there.
He has to be in combat. Yes, yeah. But the like, talking about close range, like Zarbag. Now, that said, like, let me just say, there are 100 ways to bypass this. Not the least of which is that you can put them on a so cheater. You can put them on a Balewind and push that out to 9 inches. 9 inches and make them run. Or heaven forbid, he summons a Cauldron and Balewinds. And so he actually ends up gaining like 3 inches plus 6. Because it's 3 inches within the Cauldron. So you could potentially use the Cauldron. Can you put it through a
spell portal?
Well,
yes, you could put it through a spell portal. Yeah, absolutely.
And once per battle, before you attempt to cast a spell with this model, roll a dice. On a 2+, add 2 to the casting roll. He's the perfect endless spell machine. Right?
He is a solid endless spell resource. Like, there's no question about it. Right? He's not 350, he's 160. And Balewind gives you an extra spell that round as well.
Sure.
Yep.
Zarbag also doesn't need to stay with his Gitz once deployed. Like, they can be separate, so you don't have to, he can walk around on his own, and all the Gitz are their own thing.
Yeah.
And so you could have him in the same way you're describing bunkering any of these other guys in Goblin units. You could have him bunkered in there too.
That's right.
Right. So he could be in that second rank of Goblins, and if need be, he just forces the unit that the Goblins are engaged with to retreat. Right. And that is a unique and very potent ability. Now, this guy is also squishy as crap. I mean, by the standards of Goblins, he's a Titan at 5 wounds, but still.
Yep. He's got 5 wounds instead of 3, right? Yeah. You're not going to kill him with a single
D3 thing,
wound, right? You're going to have to do
you're required to buy his Gitz as well.
Yeah, it's 160 for everything.
But they can go and take objectives, right?
Sure.
And they've got some actual relative damage.
No, they don't.
As well,
don't fool yourself. They don't have a damage character. No, they don't. Now, despite that, what I will say is that Zarbag's Gitz, the little pack of Gitz, do qualify for the Prodder buff.
They do qualify for the Prodder buff, and they have a netter.
So if you're if you're fishing,
that has a netter. So
if you're fishing,
you can put
Yes. No, there's no question about that. If you're fishing for these buff, these things, yes. I think that Zarbag has a role and a function in the army.
I would rather have Zarbag's Gitz on a backfield objective, that's relatively only going to get touched by chaff, rather than one of those, any one of those old Gabapalooza guys, sorry.
Sure.
Yeah. So, there you go.
Right. Because each of those Gabapalooza guys is the equivalent of a 70-point guy. That's what you paid for. Not 160.
Sure.
Yep.
Well, my point is
Zarbag. I'd rather have Mollog. If you're paying 170 points, I'd rather have Mollog standing on a point.
All right. So,
they can't cast spells.
I don't care.
But, you get both. You get an objective taker, and you get somebody who casts spells. And the spell is super useful.
Yep.
Right?
It is super unique, and people are not going to see it coming. You're going to be fighting over a point, and suddenly you're going to force their unit out of contention for the objective.
Eels go away, right? I'm going to go make those eels go away. I'm going to kill whatever else I want to.
Yeah. I mean, it's like abilities to force people to force enemies to move are amongst the most singularly, uniquely powerful abilities in the game. That's what
I mean, what I would say is the most powerful tool, the most powerful thing here would actually be to use this with Spell Portal.
Sure. Mm-hmm. So he's just sitting back there, like making other units retreat where he needs them to.
Right. No, it's the Loon King casts Spell Portal, drops the Spell Portal across the table. This guy's next to him, and this guy casts his Flee spell through the Spell Portal and forces a unit off of an objective.
Right.
That's where the money's at.
Sure. Because then your dudes can just go take it without even necessarily needing to fight, right? Like you don't even have to push them off.
Because that's actually what you do well is stand on points. You don't push people off points well.
Right. Well, depending. There are versions of this army that will blow people off points. But like my point is, it can become a lot easier to just like uncontested. Now you just bring all 60 of your goblins onto that point and could literally body block them from being able to get in range.
Yeah, well,
not only that,
right? Make you run away. I take your objective. Bam.
Yeah. Well, he could actually like drive. You want to talk about a spell heavy grot list? You have like your spell mirror and all those. You have your spell portal. Then he drives them away. The Loon King then casts his second spell and teleports a grot unit onto that. Because if that unit just ran off the objective, they're no longer going to be within 9 of that objective.
Well, it depends. They don't run retreat. They just retreat. It's a normal move.
Oh, it is a normal move? Okay. And is it directly away from him?
The unit must make a normal move and must retreat. Yes.
Okay. So they have to move 3 inches back. So if it's a 6-inch objective,
you don't have to run when you retreat. You can just retreat normally. You can make a normal move.
Okay.
Right. And normal move must retreat. And so what's going to happen is they're going to push 3 inches back if they're on an objective. It may move you, like if they were at the center of an objective, they move 3 inches back, 6 inches out. You could teleport some of your models within range to take the objective. Yeah.
Well, it's a really interesting trick for like better part of Valor, depending on how they're lined up there, right? Because you can you could auto snake one of their points out from them turn 1 and burn it, like pretty easily.
You can use the spell portal early in the game as the mushroom spell, right? And just get it in there and just start blowing things up.
Sure.
And then later on in the game, you can use it for making them run away, right? It's a versatile piece that allows you to do several unique things with the Moon Clan army. So that makes like an actual really interesting list, especially if you're going to be going spell heavy, because you can do a lot of fun stuff with that, right? Because the Moon Clan list is super helpful. You don't even necessarily need to have the Arachna Cauldron if you pick out the right list for what you want to do.
I mean, ultimately, I think Zarbag has both of the Night Vault guys or whatever, the Underworlds guys, whatever we want to say, bring very like unique, weird functions, tools to the army that I think you have to build around. All right. Yeah. We've gone on for like 3 hours, so we got to bring this to a close. Not that I couldn't talk about goblins all night, but at any rate, we do have to wrap this up. Is there any other final pieces we want to talk about before we get to the end of this? I want to point out one interesting piece of tech that I'm not sure everybody has cotton to that has changed in all printings since the Beasts of Chaos book. You mentioned like the
rerolls.
Yeah. So you mentioned Brugit and his ability to like make a hero reroll hit rolls, right? So this used to be phrased as you can reroll failed hit rolls, right? That's how this used to be phrased, which meant that you had this gaps problem.
Weird window. Yeah, the weird window. The weird penalty gap in there.
Yep. So when you had penalties that were going to apply, but they hadn't applied yet, right? So like you need a 4 to hit, but you've got -1. You roll the 4. You know it's going to miss, but you can't re-roll it, right? So it just has to sit there and stick on a miss, right?
Right.
Whereas now they've gone to a new terminology to close that gap. When you look at the reroll stuff now, it says you can reroll hit rolls. Period. Successful or failed, however that's being determined, right? It doesn't care. It's agnostic to it. You can just reroll it.
You choose to reroll any failed rules just became reroll any hit rolls or reroll any wound rolls. Yeah.
So just an interesting little change that I'm happy to see carried over in here. It's a small thing that I think a lot of people wouldn't even notice, but it's actually aligned to the right way people would sort of play it unconsciously, right? So,
but it's not a small thing for the Spider Fang.
No.
Especially if you're into the light of the bad moon.
No, I agree.
You can reroll everything that isn't a 5+.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. So you can use it to fish for if you had. Yeah. You could use it to fish for more hits. The problem is that there's nothing that grants reroll all hits to Spider Fang.
Dan, we talked a lot about squigs in the first show. There was tons of squig talk back there. We went deep on squigs in the first show.
Yeah. Okay. And there's some fun squig lists. I'm planning on buying and making one probably later this year.
Bounders, get into them. Regular squig hoppers, get into them for super fast chaff. Loon Boss on Mangler, incredible. Maybe one of the best bully pieces in the game. Bully. All right, Paul. What else have we talked about?
All right, so this might just be being an idiot, which is quite possible. I do that quite often.
Okay.
So everybody's talking about the monstrous mount, right? Double the number of mortal wounds that are inflicted by the general spider venom ability.
Yep.
And then the black fang, right?
Yeah,
sure.
So
it's been the general discussion, yeah.
That inflicts D3 mortal wounds on the target and the attack sequence ends. If the weapon already inflicts mortal wounds on a roll of 6, add D3 to the number of mortal wounds that is inflicted instead.
Yep.
Right? So why would that not work with Sword of Judgment? Where a 6 gives you D6 wounds instead of D3.
So you're saying
you double the mortal wounds.
Well, I can't take both because it's 2 artifacts. What are you asking me?
Well, it's not an artifact. It's a command trait. So double the mortal wounds that are inflicted by the general spider venom ability.
Right.
And then the artifact.
It's not doubling. Fang. It's not doubling your Sword of Judgment. Neither of those are. Neither of those are. Like, what's being doubled is the mortals from the ability itself, not from any items.
You're absolutely right. But the Black Fang only does D3 mortal wounds, but the Sword of Judgment does D6 mortal wounds. Why wouldn't you just do the Sword of Judgment instead? So you'd be doubling your mortal wounds from the poison and doing D6 mortal wounds.
Well, because the sword only works against heroes and monsters, but arguably the Black Fang works against everything you shove it into.
Right, and the Black Fang
we're talking about these just operating independently.
And the Black Fang would trigger on a 5+ when you have the banner, if you're under the effect of the banner or under effect of the bad moon.
Right.
Where the Sword of Judgment would only ever be on 6s. So you get the increased
the Black
range.
Fang only says if the wound already inflicts mortal wounds on a roll of a 6. Doesn't say a 5 or a 6. Just says if the weapon already inflicts mortal wounds on the roll of a 6. So it wouldn't trigger on a 5. And a D6 is going to be much more than a D3. And I understand it's only hero and monsters, but what are you going to be running this thing into?
Sure.
Right? You can tailor
that's an interesting point
for what you can do.
I hadn't thought about that extra wording on the Black Fang. There's nothing that says, like, this is a really interesting thing that they didn't cover in the FAQ that should be sent in for a question. Because the issue is, you're right, Paul. We think of the spider venom ability. We know we can drop that to 5 through a bunch of ways, right? Fine. Okay. Yep. But nothing in the Black Fang specifically says to pins this ability to when it drops to a 5, right? Nope. It just says on the 6s, this extra thing still happens. So arguably what would then occur is if you rolled the 5, so under your optimal Captain Smash circumstances, as it were, right? You roll the 5 and you get 4 mortal wounds. You roll the 6, you get 4 plus a D3. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, maybe. And at that point, I feel like I'm even more vindicated for not running,
for not liking a Black Fang.
Right. Because I think the Black Fang is gilding the lily on that general. I think it's better to not run Black Fang and just I like the banner on my guy. On my I like the Spider Fang 5+ banner on my Scuttle Boss, not on my Arachnarok, because I may not always shove the Arachnarok up in the front line, but I can tell you that Scuttle Boss is always on the front line.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, but the thing is, like, if you use a battalion, right? You can have one guy that does super damage, and you have one guy that just gives everybody else bonuses, who doesn't have to be doing super damage, right? And late game, you can have a tool that's sitting there that's waiting to do super damage. And I think that's where the facility of having multiple scuttle bosses plays in.
Well, the question is, do you want the Realm of Shadow as your realm?
Yep.
Because,
well, I mean, you do the Realm of Shadow. What else can you do on there, right? That's Ogu, right? The Realm of Shadow.
Yeah, I mean, it has a lot of good stuff in it. Like the Realm of Shadow.
It is.
The Trickster's Helm, right? I mean, the Dimensional Blade with a Rend 3, and the Blade of Secrets, right? So instead of using Ear Scuttler, where you give them -1, you use the Blade of Secrets, and you literally just remove a spell, right? You have these Scuttle bosses, which are not low damage. They've got 8 poison attacks, right? Which is more poison attacks than you have from the Ragnarok. And I understand that it's D3, but still 33% of that time, it's only going to be 1 wound. So you're doubling the wounds for potentially more, doubling the attacks for potentially more wounds, and you can take away spells, and you can give -3 Rend, right? Like, you can do a lot more things with that 300 points than you could do with just the 300 points of the Shaman on top of the Ragnarok, because you can only be in one place at one time. And I think that's where you start being able to remove tools from the enemy that makes it so that your anvils don't have to hit so hard.
Maybe.
Right? Because
your anvils are going to be there to take damage. Like, I would even push back and say, like, I wonder, would I rather have that, or would I rather have, like, multiple Ragnaroks on -1 to hit? With, like, one doing a headdress of many eyes and the other doing a Griff Feather charm. And so suddenly, like, they're both on -1 to hit on all attacks, and then the aura is pushing it to -2 or -3. And suddenly, like, those Arachnox can be real anvils at, like, -3 to hit or whatever.
Sure. All right. No, that's good. What else have we got? Any other final things we want to touch on here? Any other battalions or units or guys we haven't touched on?
I'll just say for Squig Talk, this is the second part of the Gloomspite Gitz show. We talked 2 weeks ago, and we talked a lot of squigs in that first show. So I'm going to encourage folks to check that out. I think the book is fairly well balanced. I don't think that it's over the top at all. I think that there's going to be some surprising lists to come out of this. And actually, I think the most powerful list is going to be some type of, like, hybrid magic focused list. I think that's actually where the gas is in this engine.
It'll get more powerful. Like, it's really interesting of how that's going to work, of, like, what does the presence of enemy LON lists, like, you know, Archon and Nagash and stuff like that, you know, how much are they still around in the meta? How much is shooting that can pick these things out, right, in the meta? Like, there's a lot of determinate things in there. How much does Khorne become, you know, more popular, right? If, like Khorne just took CanCon. A heavy Khorne influence is not great for Magic, right? Like, you don't want somebody bathing you in the light of a banner, making you reroll every successful cast. Like, even with +3 to cast, you will fail a lot of spells if you need, like, 7s and 8s, right? If you have to reroll every one of them.
So funny story. To speak of that, so I told you I went to an event this last weekend, and I watched Mike, Michael, who was in the show, or who's watching the show a couple minutes ago, watching him play as Daughters of Cain against James, who was like a Khorne, like a Gore Pilgrims list. Knowing both, and I was just sitting there watching, and I watched Mike. So he had Marathi, he was running Calibron, he had the Mirror Dance, and I was just watching. And so what he does at the top is he swaps the Hag into the backfield with Calibron. And I'm like, oh, this is going to go so wrong in so many levels. Like, but I wasn't going to say anything. I was just going to watch and see. And I was like, okay, go on. And he was laughing because he's like, I knew what he was going to do, which his idea was move the Hag into the backfield, rip Marathi, mirror swapper, and put Marathi in the backfield. Okay. I also knew that James was sitting on a brazen rune, blazing rune with the auto dispel. And sure enough, he's like, I'll mirror swap. And he's like, James, like, what's that do? And he's like, oh, lets me swap him. And he's like, yeah, the blazing rune says no.
Sure.
And then I was like, oh, that's
so
a
now
dead
there's
hag.
just a hag standing there who's just like, Khorne's just like, nope, dead. Get out of here, lady.
Yes, it was the most amazing thing. And I agree with you because and it wasn't just that, it was the fact that like he had to re-roll the cast on the mirror swap.
Sure.
And like, even though it was on a 4, like he still had to re-roll it. And even after he made it, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna do it. And he's like, no. Because you're right. Like Khorne has a lot of anti-magic tools.
Yeah. And if they're stronger, if they end up having a re-released book, right? They're already strong. I don't think there's anybody that would say, if Khorne didn't just prove that they've got at least some gas in the engine by winning the largest event that's been done in AOS 2, okay? Like, there's something there, and they were showing up in many of the other places too. Yeah. You know, the more prevalent they become, there is this sort of anti-magic floating around. So there's a lot of things that'll push on that, right? Of how viable that is the thing, is what I'm saying.
And shout out to James, who in that game, that Khorne army was running the Exalted Death Seeker or whatever the dude's name was with the smoldering helm.
Yeah,
and all of the
Deathbringer with the smoldering helm. So he was double dipping. He did both of them.
One's flesh, and he's like staring down Michael's daughters. And he's like, this one's for them. Like this block of 30, and I was like, oh.
Put that boy into 30 witches and watch them all just explode.
In redness. So I was like, oh, James has definitely been watching the show.
That's fantastic. Well, I love it. All right, Paul, any final thoughts on the Gitz before we close out?
So again, maybe this is stupid.
Nope.
Right? But can you buy Wildwoods in your army list?
What?
Can you buy Wildwoods in your army list like you used to be able to in AOS 1.0?
I don't think so, because I think they said that only Sylvaneth can do it. But why? What's the question around?
I was just going to wonder if you could throw some terrain on the board to use your spell that allows you.
Oh, that's funny. There you go. Nice.
No, because they're not allies of yours. And they're in the actual Sylvaneth list. Now, I don't know if non-Sylvaneth with that Sylvaneth allies can do it. The real question I have is that since you can bring in Troggoth allies, and Troggoth is a keyword,
right? It is,
Can you do?
Can you bring in Chaos Trolls?
Chaos Trolls.
Here we go again.
And drag Bile Trolls in. That's what I want to know. That's the real question.
Can Bile have anything that gives them synergy? Because that would be great. Just throw in some Bile Trolls.
They don't, but it makes me wonder. Inquiring minds want to know, GW.
I like it. That is funny. I noticed that too, because when I was like looking at all the Troggoths before the show, I was like, oh, all these guys have that keyword too. Huh, that's funny. Oh, there you go. No, this is good. Paul, thank you very much, buddy, for doing another marathon Gitz review with us. This brings us up to like 6 hours of Gitz content.
Are you doing Spiders and Akon?
Oh yeah, of course.
Are you doing it for both? All the events?
I cannot, because I'm running a narrative event on Thursday.
Oh yeah. So you can't do the Vanguard.
I mean, there might be Spider Fang Grots there,
right?
At the narrative event, but I'm not
sure.
going to be in the tournament.
Indeed. No, indeed. Excellent. Well, I look forward to seeing your Gitz on the table. Mine will not be for the Grand Championship, but they will probably be for the Vanguard. We'll see.
Grand Championship. I'll probably lose everything. It'll be great.
It's okay. I mean, you played KO and did that last year, so
yeah, exactly. I mean,
fine.
There's still Gitz, but not as cool of Gitz.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. So with that, Paul, thank you very much. Much appreciated, buddy. Good time as always. For everybody out there, don't forget I'll link the merch video down below if you're interested. If you want to wait, that's fine too. Because like I said, depending on this, at this point, I'm pretty sure we're going to do a second round. Last final spots are available for the February 16th and 17th class in Philadelphia. The link is down below for all the classes I'm teaching this year with CK Studios. And actually all the new ones just got added up to, I think Chicago will show up. So I'm going to be in Dallas. I'm going to be in Olympia, Washington. I'll be over in the UK, and I'll be in Chicago that's between now and September. You can go there and look for the dates.
Aren't you fancy?
What's that?
I said, aren't you fancy?
I'm telling people out there. If you're interested, you can check out the link, and we'd be happy to have you in one of the classes. It'll be a lot of fun in all cases. But for everything, for everybody. We appreciate you very much watching this. And as always, we'll see you next Wednesday.